It started in March of 2015 when Senator Ted Cruz announced he was running for president. Over the next weeks and months, 21 more candidates on both sides of the aisle joined the fray. Over 57 million people voted in the primaries, over 7,000 delegates formalized the result at the conventions, and now we are down to two candidates. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and businessman Donald J. Trump, both vying to make history. Clinton attempting to become the first woman president, and Trump attempting to become the first president never to have previously served in the government. The candidates have debated, they have bought their ads, they have fired at their bases, and they have tried to woo independents. Now our 20-month odyssey comes to a close, and America chooses her next president.
This is a movement like our country has never seen before.
The change you've been waiting for your entire life.
We are going to win back the White House.
Don't ever forget what we are capable of being. I love our country and I believe in our people. And I will never, ever quit on you.
Good evening. This is Election Night on CitrusTV. I'm your moderator, Alex Amico.
I'm Josh Carney.
And I'm Michael Tricarico. Tonight on CitrusTV, we break down all the states for you in the path to 270.
We're live at the Huntington Hall polling station and the Democratic and Republican headquarters in Syracuse.
Plus the new President of the United States. This is Election Night 2016. Polls have already closed in some states. Many in the East Coast closed at 7 and 8 p.m. We have the results from those states right now. Here's what we can project. CitrusTV is ready to project that Vermont will vote for Hillary Clinton. That's 3 electoral votes for Secretary Clinton from the state of Vermont.
Moving on to Indiana, we can project that Donald Trump will be the winner here. 64% to Hillary Clinton's 31%, just 15% of the vote in there.
Kentucky is also following the Trump column, 61% to 34%, amassing a pretty substantial victory for the Trump campaign there.
Moving on up in coal country, West Virginia is also going to Trump by right now about 51% to 43%. That's 5 electoral votes going to Mr. Trump.
In New Jersey, 14 electoral college votes will go to Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton again taking New Jersey and those 14 electoral college votes.
We're looking to my home state of Massachusetts, where it's going to Hillary Clinton, 11 electoral votes, 53% to 40%. Still a lot of the vote to come in there, but another one for the Clinton campaign.
And in Maryland, with 0% of the vote in, we are all ready to project that this liberal stronghold will not break. It is still going to Hillary Clinton.
No surprise here either. Oklahoma, with just 7% of the vote in, the 7 electoral college votes going to Donald Trump.
Mississippi is too close to call at this point. It is leaning towards the Trump campaign, but it is still going to be a fight throughout the night.
And in Delaware, the home state of Vice President Joe Biden, those 3 electoral votes will go to Hillary Clinton. Now, we want to go over to our election correspondent, Dan Prager. He's going to break down what's going on tonight. We're taking a close look at the... I apologize for that. We're not going to go to Dan Prager just yet. One thing I want to take a look at right now, the state of Georgia right now. Usually a Republican stronghold, it's too close to call. It looks like the electorate is about 40% non-white, which mirrors what the state's population is like. But that's a big surprise so far tonight.
We're seeing not as many minority voters coming out, which is desperately hurting the polls, especially in Atlanta and its suburbs, which isn't able to drive the vote to where the Democrats are going to need it. So it is too close to call, but we are expecting a conservative stronghold to yet again turn red.
Yeah, 32% of voters in Georgia are black. The exit polls in Georgia can help maybe tell us a little bit, at least, what the African-American vote for the rest of the country might be like as well.
Right. Between Cobb and Gwinnett counties, which are the surrounding suburbs of Atlanta, we're looking at 27% of the population being the black vote, but it's also minorities in general. It's an incredibly diverse city, and it is driving a mass population right in the heart of Atlanta, right in the heart of Georgia.
And one surprise that we're seeing from the exit polls right now, in 2012, Mitt Romney won 59% of white voters. Early exit polls show that Trump is actually underperforming him with white voters. Now, a big part of his appeal as a candidate was that he could bring out hidden white voters. We'll see if those hold, but if not, it could be a long night for the Trump campaign. Sure. Now we want to go over to Dan Prager. He's watching the maps all night. Dan, what do the results show so far?
Well, thanks, guys. One of the big surprises of this election really is Florida. We didn't expect all of these votes to come in so quickly. Right now, Trump is up about 1%, but we still have a long way to go with these bottom counties right down here. We have Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, all super liberal strongholds. Broward has about maybe 200,000 or so more votes to go. Miami-Dade's almost done. They're going heavily for Clinton. Some other surprises in this state, you have up here where you have Jacksonville, usually a pretty conservative area. It went for Romney by about 4 points. Right now, Trump is only holding it by about 1. So that's a pretty big loss for Trump. But in terms of gains, he picked up right over here, right around where Tampa is. It went blue for Obama in 2012. But in this election, it looks like it's going to go red. However, Hillsborough, which is right next to it, home of most of Tampa, not all of it, is a bellwether. Usually it picks, I think only one time in our history has it not gone for, the candidate that won that county has not won Florida. So if we look at it right now, it's going for Clinton. So if that stands true, I think Clinton's got the state.
Thank you, Dan. Polls here in New York State close at 9 p.m. and our Citrus TV reporter Jamie Weiss has been at the Huntington Hall polling station. Jamie, what's the scene been like at Huntington all day?
Well, Alex, it's pretty quiet here at Huntington Hall right now. Polls opened this morning at 6 a.m. and like you said, they close at 9, so about 25 minutes to go. And like I said, right now it's pretty empty. I went inside and spoke with some of the women who have been running the polling center all day, and they said today actually went very well. They had about 630 voters come. That is an increased voter turnout than they've seen in the past. The majority of those voters are first-time voters. The majority are SU students, since this is the only polling center on the Hill. And one of the other women who runs the polling center said everyone was very respectful, they were very appreciative, and everyone seemed very excited to be voting. And it's crazy that Election Day is almost over already, but those women are looking forward to 9 o'clock when their day is almost done. Back to you, Alex.
Thanks so much, Jamie. We will continue to keep you updated throughout the night, and we'll be back to Jamie later at the campus watch parties. On the other side of the break, the numbers from North Carolina, Michigan, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Florida are still pouring in. We'll give you the latest numbers and break it all down for you. Stay with us.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.
Welcome back. Votes in several states are still being tallied, some of which could prove critical in the path to 270. Let's take a look at some early returns to see where we are. We're ready to call a few states right now. New Jersey is going to go to Hillary Clinton. Those 14 electoral votes are going to stay in the Democratic column.
Moving on to Tennessee, Donald Trump So far, an emphatic lead, and that will stay 11 electoral votes to Donald Trump from Tennessee.
And we've got the District of Columbia coming in as the projected winner for the Clinton campaign. 3 electoral votes following the Clinton column.
Yeah, Washington, D.C., obviously, it's a locale that's never gone Republican. It voted for Walter Mondale. In 1984, it voted for George McGovern in 1972. So that Democratic city is staying Democratic. In South Carolina, Donald Trump will be the winner there. The red state will stay red for at least one more election cycle. Donald Trump winning big there, so far 58-39.
In Illinois, Hillary Clinton winning President Obama's home state. 20 electoral votes to Hillary Clinton.
And now we're ready to talk about some states we are still counting. In North Carolina right now, Hillary Clinton has a 50.4 to 47.2 lead. In Michigan, with 8% of the vote in, she's up 50.5 to 44.5. And in my home Commonwealth of Virginia, with 52% of the vote in, Trump is at 50.3%, Hillary Clinton at 44.7. In Pennsylvania, with 1% of the vote in, 80.3% for Hillary Clinton, 17.4% for Trump. The Philadelphia suburbs in there providing 85% of the vote for the rest of this, 40% of the vote in the rest of the state, and that goes usually 85% to Democrats. Looking at Ohio now, well, we don't have numbers from Ohio. I apologize. Ohio, 34% of the vote in. Hillary Clinton up 49.4 to 46.8. A bit of a surprise there. Ohio seemed like a state that was going to be ripe for a pickoff for Trump. We'll see what happens as we keep counting. And in the crucial state of Florida, 91% of the vote in. Trump is at 49%. Clinton is at 47.9. A tight race in that state. And it's really hard to overstate how important Florida is to Donald Trump in this campaign.
For sure. And we're seeing those numbers coming in a strong way from early voting. Over 40% of the state did and went through the process of early voting. We're looking at critical counties like Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, and even those byways in Volusia. So we're looking at sides of the states that matter, cities that have a huge populace, and we're also looking at a lot of elderly voters. So you have elderly conservatives, elderly liberals, creating an interesting mix, and it's going to go well into the night for Florida.
Now, early voting demographics, most groups went down in terms of their turnout from 2012.
Sure.
Whites went down about 2%, blacks went down about 2.8. There was only one group to actually go up, and that was Latino voters went up about 4.4%. They're estimating about 1 million Latinos voted early, 300,000 of which at least didn't vote in 2012, which is very good news for the Clinton campaign.
Yes, you also have a strong split within Latino and Hispanic voters where you have the younger demographic leaning towards a more liberal perspective, but on the opposition, you have the older demographic still remaining that Cuba is one of the major problems within this election, and you see sort of Obama taking a less aggressive approach than his predecessors, and that worries a lot within those. So it has been a monolith in the past, but we're seeing it diversify throughout this election.
And moving up to North Carolina, one of the swingiest of swing states. It went for President Obama in 2008. It went for Mitt Romney in 2012. Clinton has a narrow lead right now, and there are still some of those more liberal cities to be coming in. The Clinton campaign won a big victory there. The North Carolina Board of Elections ruled that after some errors, polling places in Durham, North Carolina, which is a major Democratic city, could stay open an extra hour and a half. And Mike, that's going to probably help her out big time.
Yeah, absolutely. And if, it goes back to, of course, the issue being that a couple of the electronic polling machines were malfunctioning, so they had to go to the paper ballots, which of course takes longer. So certainly being open longer when the Democratic heavy Durham area will certainly help.
Yes, and I'd also say that one of the biggest components to the North Carolina vote in its entirety is minorities voting. You have a lot of frustrated voters of all races and nationalities within that state, but what it's going to come down to is the metropolitan areas, who's getting out the vote within those areas. We see early voting amongst black Americans within North Carolina down 11% this year, and it's creating a true disruption in Raleigh, in Durham, and Salem, these places where there are universities and typically have a more liberal stance. So it is creating sort of this chasm between the typical conservative vote and why it's leaning Democrat as a prospective opportunity for the Clinton campaign.
Well, and of course it also, the percentage when early voting is coming in, you also have to pay attention to where that voting is coming from, because you know what counties lean more Democratic or more Republican.
All right. Well, we will see what happens. Coming up after the break, we'll take a look at the polls closing at the 9 o'clock hour. You're watching Election Night on Citrus TV.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation letter.
You're resigning? Why? Because you're constantly ignoring me? You're half as active as you used to be, and you get stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit. I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me. Okay, but remember, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? It may be too late to check when you're on the road. Fortunately, you're on the couch. Don't think you know. Know you know.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
We are just a few minutes away from the official close of polls here in New York. Chris Venzen is at the Huntington Hall Polling Center, where he learned some surprising news about today's voter turnout.
Polling stations are just about to close out here at Huntington Hall, located along Marshall Street at Syracuse University. The big news from today, lines to vote were virtually non-existent. I spoke with Gloria Paul, one of the voting inspectors who's been working the election since 2004. She said the drop-off in voters casting their ballots was noticeable from Obama's last elections in 2008 and 2012.
The turnout was really good for Obama, you know, his first term and the second term. But this is kind of pitiful today.
Part of the problem might have been the general lack of advertising outside of the building. Aside from a few signs and posters, it's difficult to tell that voting actually is going on inside of Huntington Hall. I spoke with a few students who said that the change in location from Byrd Library last election to Huntington Hall this election could have contributed and could have been a reason for some of the low numbers this year.
Definitely should consider moving it back somewhere. I mean, there's so many places you can move it to on campus. I don't really see why it's all the way out here. But when I got in here, and I'm a student here, I still couldn't find this right place because there was no signs. I just knew it was this building.
We'll see if the turnout here at Huntington Hall truly reflects the big voting picture of Central New York and how that might impact the election. I'm Chris Venzen for Citrus TV.
We are less than 15 minutes away from the start of a new hour, and that means we have more states closing in just a short while. Some of the more notable states closing at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time are Arizona, Colorado, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and Michigan. And we have a new projection to make. Citrus TV is ready to project that Hillary Clinton will win Rhode Island and its 4 electoral votes. Another liberal state staying with the Democratic Party for one more election. Now, looking ahead to some of these states that are coming out, in Michigan is one big one. It looks like to win, Donald Trump is going to probably have to steal a blue state. Michigan looks like one of his better chances.
Right. The polling has been off internally, but nationally we're seeing a strong difference. The biggest thing is getting the suburbs around Detroit. It's very much aligns itself similar to the Philadelphia region, where these are educated white voters in typically wealthy communities that he has been trying to woo for ages. But we also see in the heart of Detroit a lesser voter turnout this season, and we're also seeing allegations of voter intimidation. There's a lot of problems coming from within Detroit and throughout Michigan, but Hillary Clinton has made it a huge part of her progressive campaign, getting out to Flint, making Flint a true issue. So Michigan has become a really important state for us to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is exit polls coming from Florida were showing that actually for voters where the main issue was the economy, they actually favored Hillary Clinton. It'll be interesting to see when Donald Trump is going for these blue-collar workers, trying to hit on the economy, if he can win those voters that where the economy is the main issue in more of those blue-collar areas.
And another important swing state in Colorado, they went for George W. Bush in 2000 and 2004. They went for President Obama in 2008 and 2012. There's a pretty high percentage of Hispanics there, but it's also a very educated state and a relatively high income state. It looks like it might be a bit of a tough poach as far as swing states go for the Trump campaign.
True, it's changed drastically over the past 10 years and since the Bush administration. It's become a much more liberal state. It's also become a much more educated state, as you said. So it's for right now in the Clinton column as it's been projected throughout the majority of the race, and it looks like it's probably going to stay that way when you look into Denver, Boulder, those counties that surround those areas, and actually look at the enterprises within them. There's a lot of key movements driving that state.
And in Wisconsin, where Donald Trump's Rust Belt strategy might hit a bit of a bump, Wisconsin usually, it seems like a fairly fertile ground for a Republican. The RNC chair is from Wisconsin, Paul Ryan's from Wisconsin, they've got a Republican governor. But Donald Trump did not do well at all in the primary there. He got beat pretty handily by Ted Cruz. That's going to be another heavy lift for him.
Right, it's a true heavy lift because you see Romney winning 30 to 40 each in the three counties that really matter, the WOW counties as they're known, Waukesha, Ozaukee, and Washington. They're the Milwaukee suburbs, and they're 90% white. Other than that, it's a pretty rural state, but you're also seeing those those critical strongholds for the Republican Party kind of become a toss-up within that region. So that's also going to be another one that we're going to have to wait on. It's coming down to those three counties.
It's another one of those states where, similar to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia and its collar counties yank the whole state,
right.
Just like in Wisconsin with Milwaukee and its collar counties. Now, let's take a look. Arizona is one state, it's a pretty red state, but the Clinton campaign is thinking that they might be able to pick it up because of higher Latino turnout.
Right.
Maricopa County provides about half the vote of the state. Romney won it by 10. That's going to be, she needs to definitely outperform Romney there if she wants, outperform President Obama there if she wants to take the state.
For sure. I'd say one of the strong problems with Arizona has become very much a one-issue state where immigration is very much driving the vote there. With 30% of a Hispanic population, especially in Maricopa County, you have a lot of controversy surrounding the campaigns. Both have committed a strong amount of resources, especially in the final few weeks. Tricky, I know that you've been running up some of those numbers on that and have been looking at that race as well, and we see some pretty strong problems.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and it'll be interesting to see what the outlook is, and again, with the exit polls as they come along.
For sure.
All right, we'll see what happens. When we come back, Dan Prager will have the latest numbers on the states that are still too close to call. Stay with us.
You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it?
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got? Or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Fancy pants peanut butter? A big screen television? You haven't even bought a sofa yet. A motorcycle? When your father finds out, he's gonna flip his shoes with 2 buckles? What do you even need 2 buckles for? Mr. Big Shot, buying whiskey shots for everybody in the bar. From the looks of it, I'd say nobody even remembers. Feed the pig.
Got a quarter?
And now Citrus TV reporter Megan Mystery is here to break down the Electoral College and what the 270 votes really mean.
Presidential election won't just be decided on who gets the most voter support. The winning candidate still needs the backing of the Electoral College. So what is the Electoral College? Well, it's existed since the Constitution and is a group of 538 people across the nation. For a candidate to win, they must receive the support of 270 of these electoral votes. Each state has a certain number of electoral votes. That's the number of senators and U.S. representatives each state has combined. So a more populated state gets more electoral votes. Take, for instance, California, which gets 55 votes, whereas Wyoming only gets 3. Washington, D.C. also gets 3 votes, even though it's not a state. Now, for most states, all electoral votes go to whoever wins the popular vote. So, for instance, if Texas goes red for Donald Trump, then Trump would get all 38 electoral votes. But some states allow for partial allocation of electoral votes. Nebraska and Maine do this, and it works like this. The overall winner gets 2 electoral votes, and then the winner of each congressional district gets 1. So if the overall state winner gets some congressional districts, but not all, then they get those electoral votes, but won't get all of the electoral votes that Maine and Nebraska have to offer. Electors are selected in different ways for different states, but usually members of the college are state elected officials, party leaders, or people with strong ties to presidential candidates. Let's say, although it's highly unlikely, that no candidate gets the necessary 270 votes tonight. Then the election would be sent to the U.S. House of Representatives. There, each state would cast 1 vote, and whoever wins the most states would win the election. The Electoral College will meet the Monday, December 19th to cast their ballots. Those will be read by the President of the Senate before both houses on January 6th. Back to you, Alex.
Thanks, Megan. Now, Dan Prager is here again with the latest look at where we stand with the Electoral College.
Thanks, Alex. So this is what we're looking at right now. Not a lot of surprises. All of these states are really solidly red or blue. So what we're really going to look at right now is where these close states are going to go and how it relates to 2012 in Obama versus Romney. So if we look at that map where we had in 2012, we would see that Trump really needs one of these Rust Belt states to try and take over and try and win this election. If by chance Clinton wins Florida, and I'd say the consensus right now is although he's up, Clinton probably has the advantage there. If she wins Florida, Trump could win states that Obama won in 2012. Let's say 2 of these Rust Belt states, any 2, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Iowa, North Carolina, either New Hampshire or Colorado, and Clinton still wins the race. So it really hinges on Florida. If Trump can pull Florida back, he still has to hope for a win in North Carolina. He still has to hope for a win in one of those states because it looks like Nevada is going blue. He has to win Wisconsin, maybe Michigan, maybe Pennsylvania. So it's kind of a tough road right now already starting for Trump, and he's going to need to get pretty lucky tonight and need to hope for some high turnout among Republicans.
Thanks, Dan. Now, before we go, we'll give you the total electoral votes as they stand right now. Hillary Clinton has 68 electoral votes, and Donald Trump has 66 electoral votes. There are quite a few states left to be counted, even just on the East Coast. We'll see where we end up. Coming up at the top of the hour, there are still plenty of states to be called in this race to 270, including our own state of New York. We'll also check in with our reporters Nicole Dementri and Rob Romano, stationed at the Republican and Democratic headquarters in Syracuse. You're watching Election Night on Citrus TV.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly,
disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent. We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness. I am a witness. I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
Come on, it's not that hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
Hey, look, it's those guys.
Are you good to drive? I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be?
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck.
So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
This is a movement like our country has never seen before.
The change you've been waiting for your entire life.
We are going to win back the White House.
Don't ever forget what we are capable of being. I love our country and I believe in our people. And I will never, ever quit on you.
We are back, and we have our reporter Rob Romano live at the Hotel Syracuse, the Democratic headquarters in Syracuse. So Rob, what's the atmosphere like there tonight?
Thanks, Alex. Yes, the atmosphere right now, well, we have a pretty good amount of people that have been pouring in at this point, but the atmosphere isn't exactly going crazy just yet. There's no sign of Colleen Deacon, but I will say that things are starting to get a little bit more hyped. There continues to be more people that continue to be pouring in, and eventually, I guarantee it's definitely going to create some fireworks here, even though Colleen Deacon is a candidate that has been down in so many polls compared to John Katko in the double digits in a number of them, whether it's Siena College and many others. However, it definitely looks like things are going to shape up to be pretty interesting in here on a very historic night inside the historic Hotel Syracuse, newly renovated. And it just seems to be that things are going to shape up to be quite interesting, not only at the local level between John Katko and Colleen Deacon, and especially with a number of other down ballot elections, but also at the national level with, of course, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and the hype that's there. So I'm going to send it back to you guys in the studio, and when I have more, I'll give you more. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. We'll continue to update you later on what's going on there. But now we go to our reporter, Nicole Dementri, at the Sheraton Hotel, which is the Republican headquarters in Syracuse for the night. So, Nicole, tell us what's going on there tonight.
Hey, Alex, here right now, the energy is ecstatic, but there is a little bit of nervousness in the air as people are anxiously awaiting the results of both the local and national election. But here, dozens of people are flowing in. As you can see behind me, there's just chitter chatter. We're expecting John Katko to come, and he won't be coming, sources tell me, until he clinches that victory. If he does clinch that victory, then he'll come here, and behind me, he will speak and give his speech. But people here are super excited about the night. We have Fox on behind me, and we're watching just as state by state it play out to see which state Trump exactly wins. Back to you guys in the studio, Alex.
Thanks so much, Nicole. We'll go back to her later with more. Now we turn to the latest states to be called in the race to 270. At this hour, we have several calls to make. CitrusTV can now project that Hillary Clinton will win the state of New York. Hillary Clinton's home state, she represented it as a senator. That is going to go to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, really no surprise there on that one.
And in Wyoming, those 3 electoral votes will go to Trump. No surprise, it's one of the most conservative states in the country. Same with Kansas, also going to Trump, and both of the Dakotas will also go to Donald Trump, and he wins the state of Texas. Now, about a week ago, before the letter from FBI Director James Comey, Democrats thought they might have a shot at Texas, but it's called pretty early tonight.
Yep, there was a huge investment also by the Clinton campaign, over $100 million pouring into there in the last 2 weeks. They actually made a push to try and get it to go purple, so it's a pretty substantial loss for that campaign, and you got to say, what were they thinking?
Yeah, there's a large Latino population in Texas, but one of the things is that the Latino population in Texas actually votes quite a bit for Republicans. It's not quite as in other states where there's a significant Democratic advantage there just yet.
Right. Outside of Austin and Dallas, you're really seeing that conservative stronghold come to fruition, especially in that beltway with all those conservative states. It's typical, and it's on point, and it's being cast for Trump tonight.
And one state with a that the polls just closed in is Louisiana. Now, something interesting about that Senate race, Louisiana does a jungle primary for the Senate, so everyone runs in one election regardless of party, and the top 2 finishers, regardless of party, move to a runoff election. Now, there are 2 Democrats running slightly behind the top polling Republican, but if the Republican vote splits between the other 22 candidates, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But
certainly a circus, considering David Duke is also in that race.
Very true. But now we'll go to Dan Prager. He'll give us another breakdown on the Electoral College. Dan, what are you looking at?
Well, thanks, Alex. Actually, we're going to focus on a couple of states that are really important for both candidates' chances. We're going to start out here with North Carolina, a state that went for Romney. It's one of the few states where Clinton is trying to take from what Romney won in 2012. The main places she's looking at are right in this center area. That's the Research Triangle area. We have Wake County and Forsyth County. Both have Clinton up about like 20 right now, and both broke for Obama by less than 10. So Clinton's making big gains there among educated whites, black vote, some partially the Hispanic vote, and that's making up for a lot of the gains that Trump has made over here on the west side of North Carolina, where it's very rural, very conservative, and he's picking up a lot of votes there because there's a high approval rating of what Trump's been doing in the primary. So actually, let's move on to Pennsylvania now, which is another very important state. I'm actually going to come over this way because what I want to talk about is right in here. This is Philadelphia right over here, and surrounding it are the 4 suburban counties, including Bucks County, which is right up here. That is one of the most important counties in Pennsylvania. All of them are pretty moderate. Bucks and another one, Chester, went only by about a point to Barack Obama. Bucks right now with about 400 votes in, which means very little is leaning toward Trump. Clinton's hoping to make big gains there, which again is going to offset Trump's gains up here in central Pennsylvania. Trump is hoping in coal country, such as places like Luzerne County, which is blue right around here. Luzerne County is probably going to go red because they're coal country. They like Trump's way of talking. He has a very high approval rating there. So we're going to have to watch to see if the suburban and the urban vote in Pennsylvania, which is a big portion of the vote in there and in places like Pittsburgh, can overtake the rural vote in central Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Dan. On the other side of the break, Sarah Nevin will join us as we take a closer look at the New York 24th congressional race between Republican incumbent John Katko and Democratic challenger Colleen Deacon. And Rob Romano was at the latest Interstate 81 public meeting to ask voters what they think about one of the biggest issues in central New York. Stay with us.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat?
1 in 5 children struggles with hunger in America. Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. Gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
Next, we take a look at New York State's 24th Congressional District. Sarah Nevin is here with the latest on the race between John Katko and Colleen Deacon. Sarah, thank you for joining us.
Polls here just closed at 9, so let's take a look at both candidates. First, incumbent Republican John Katko was elected 2 years ago, beating Dan Maffei by 20%. During his first term in Congress, he served as a member of the House Homeland Security Committee and the House Committee of Transportation and Infrastructure. 15 of the bills he worked on passed the House and 6 were signed into law, the most of any freshman representative since 1989. Katko is an Onondaga County native, and for 15 years he served as a federal prosecutor here in Syracuse, creating the Syracuse Gang Violence Task Force. Now taking a look at his opponent, Colleen Deacon, the Democrat has worked for several public officials. She served as press secretary for Syracuse Mayor Matt Driscoll for 6 years. Deacon then worked for Senator Kirsten Gillibrand as regional director. Deacon is a Syracuse native and worked her way through college, earning a degree from Syracuse University. As of the most recent polls, Katko is up 23 points, up from a 19-point lead in late September. And while results aren't in yet, Katko is the favorite in this race. Guys?
Thank you, Sarah. So the 24th district has always been a toss-up, but like you said, Katko right now is up by about 20. What's happened there?
Yeah, so there's a lot working against Deacon in this election. Polls find that about 40% of voters either don't know who she is or they don't have an opinion of her. So it's difficult to get people to vote for you if they don't know who you are. And then for Katko, he has the lead among independent voters. He also has around 3/4 of Republican voters voting for him, while Deacon only has about 60% of the support from Democrats. So there's a lot of Democrats voting Republican in this election. The only thing really working against Katko is the unpopularity of Donald Trump in this district.
So what are some of the issues that the candidates disagree on?
Yeah, so Deacon supports funding Planned Parenthood. She is also pro-choice, and while Katko is against abortion, he supported funding for Planned Parenthood in his 2014 race, but recently switched and is supporting a temporary ban on funding until Congress investigates their practices. Deacon also supports Obamacare. Katko is against it, and he supports lower premiums as an alternative. Deacon is also a supporter for a gradual increase in minimum wage to $15. Katko is adamantly against that without tax reform.
Now, there have been thousands of dollars of ads being run in this race, and a lot of them have been really negative.
Right, so advertisements have really focused less on the issues that these candidates stand for or more on attacking each other. A notable Katko ad calls out Deacon for not having any idea how to address ISIS. So that was pretty brutal. Deacon basically said, that was misleading, and then Deacon's ads on Katko kind of call him out for not bringing jobs for CNY, and also linking him to Donald Trump, because even though Katko hasn't come out saying he supports Donald Trump, he also doesn't say he's against him.
Well, we will see what happens. Sarah and Evan, thank you for joining us. One of the biggest issues in this congressional race between Katko and Deacon is what to do with Interstate 81. The caveat is that neither candidate is saying what they would do about the highway. Rob Romano breaks down the 2 biggest scenarios for I-81 and sheds light on the politics behind the issue.
I like the community grid option. I believe that at this time we need to take the path of least destruction.
When it comes to the issue of I-81's future, the city of Syracuse has a few different paths to take. The Department of Transportation calls one of them the community grid, an avenue complete with plants, bike lanes, and more walkability to replace the more than 50-year-old raised highway. To allow this to happen, traffic would be diverted to Interstate 481, a highway that runs around the city, and Almond Street, the street cars drive on after they get off 81 at exit 18, would become the main avenue under the plan. Outside of 81, the community grid concept also includes changes for I-690 East. New exits would be built for Irving Avenue and Krause, establishing another way to get to the SU Hill. The other plan for 81 is the viaduct option, a plan more focused on shoring up parts of the highway to make it more safe for travelers. The viaduct option increases the size of I-81 by expanding shoulders and changing some on and off ramps. The main caveat with the viaduct is that it would make the highway even closer to adjacent buildings, creating more noise for residents, and requiring more properties to be demolished. The viaduct concept requires 24 properties to be demolished, including Syracuse University's Peck Hall. The CNY Eye and Tissue Bank would also be on the list to be removed, along with Smith Restaurant Supply, a business that has been operating since before 81 was even there, back in 1946. This is compared to only 5 businesses having to be removed under the community grid concept. Not to mention the city would save $400 million. But there are 4 businesses going away no matter what. The Dunkin' Donuts below I-81, businesses at Learbury Center on North Salina Street, one of which is Syracuse Behavioral Health Care, a substance abuse treatment center, a warehouse office of the Syracuse Housing Authority, and Veterans Fastener Supply Corp., a business owned by a Vietnam vet on Butternut Street. Mike Hanley is caught between the 2 plans for the interstate. He's concerned about congestion.
The city's in rough shape right now. The infrastructure's terrible now. Roads are in disrepair. So now you're going to take a main interstate, you're going to shut it down to be able to tear it down. Where does everybody go?
And the local political climate doesn't seem to be helping any constituents find answers for I-81. In a recent debate, Republican incumbent John Katko spoke about his work on a highway bill that made I-81 more eligible for federal money for transportation spending. Katko gave a speech right below the 81 viaduct after his bill passed the Senate. But Katko has yet to endorse any plan for 81. Colleen Deacon recently said in a debate that any approach for 81 needs to come from the community, but she would not say which plan she prefers. Dave DiStefano is from Syracuse. He is voting for John Katko, and he supports the community grid.
From what I've heard, putting the highway going straight through the city has negatively affected a lot of communities and neighborhoods in Syracuse.
Jason Evans is an architect for Rethink 81, a local civic group that supports the community grid plan. His wife owns a bakery right below the 81 viaduct. He's not sure who to vote for, but he says the candidates should state their opinions about 81 because it could give their campaigns some energy.
I feel like it could really charge their campaigns. Like if Colleen Deacon, for example, was like, hey, we need to heal the community, take the highway down, go with this community grid, and then make it something really special, and revitalize it. It could revitalize the whole city. I mean, it does have a huge potential to do that.
Because we don't know where the candidates stand on I-81, we can only make predictions. Congressman John Katko has received thousands of dollars in campaign donations from Romano Cars, hundreds from other local dealers, money from a local trucking company, and thousands from an executive from Destiny USA. All of these parties would benefit from the viaduct option because the viaduct would ensure faster transportation, making businesses more accessible. Overall, when you look at the issue of interstate highways being replaced, rebuilt, or removed, whether it's Boston with the Big Dig, San Francisco with the removal of the Central Freeway, or Rochester, New York with the Inner Loop East project, a national trend seems to be the removal of big highways running through cities and gentle boulevards taking their place. We have yet to see where Syracuse wants to go. Rob Romano, CitrusTV News.
Now, before we go, we do have one projection to make. The state of Arkansas, Bill Clinton's home state, will go to Donald Trump. No surprise, Republican stronghold remains Republican. In just a few minutes, we'll take a closer look at Senate races across the nation as the numbers continue to come in, and we'll analyze the chances of Democrats taking back control. Don't go anywhere.
Taking care of a family member can lead to plenty of questions. Fortunately, there's a place to get the answers, for them and for you. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
I spy something beginning with S.
Snow?
No.
Snow-covered trees.
Nothing to do with snow.
Head outside to discover incredible animals and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure.
Wow.
So grab your loved ones.
Don't even.
And explore a world of possibilities.
Come on, this way.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you.
Polls are closed and the ballots are being counted, but in order to cast your vote, you're going to need a voting booth. CitrusTV reporter Jamie Weiss learned how voting booths made it to the polls.
Polls have closed across Onondaga County this election day, but have you ever wondered how the voting booths got delivered?
We get the supplies ready for the truckers. We get the machines in order and ready for them. And then all we do is get them all scanned out as they load them onto the trucks. And as they come back, we'll do the same. And then we remove the memory cards. The night of election, the first set gets loaded as quickly as possible so that the county can get the results as quick as they would like. And then we do the second set a few days later, and we make sure that they match 100%.
In order to count those ballots, you're going to need a voting booth. As you can see behind me, there are hundreds of voting booths here in the Onondaga County Board of Elections. Employees have been moving these voting booths onto trucks, and those trucks are going to ship out across the county, so everything is set in place for Election Day.
One major concern this election cycle is that many voters fear their ballot won't count, and some candidates believe that the election may be rigged.
There's no way to rig an election, and I think a lot of times that's code talk for voter impersonation, and the studies on that have been pretty definitive that just doesn't happen. I mean, you get a better chance of being struck by lightning. So.
Jamie Weiss, CitrusTV News.
We have several calls to make in Senate races around the country. Two calls particularly. Republican incumbent Marco Rubio has won his race for re-election in Florida, and Republican Todd Young has won the Senate race in Indiana. Those are two big blows for Democrats right there.
Strong blows, and you saw that they were readily able to spend, especially in Indiana, where you have $30 million coming in from outside groups, $9 million from Republican PACs, and the person that he defeated is a former governor and son of former Senator Birch Bay. So this was a huge stronghold for Democrats trying to win back that seat within Indiana. There was a lot of money pumped in from conservative groups, supported Trump, obviously, in Mike Pence's state, so it was really a given there. On the flip side, we have Marco Rubio in Florida.
Marco Rubio was one, especially with Florida, that Democrats certainly thought they had a legitimate shot of taking down Rubio, but in the end, I think the Latino vote, sometimes Latinos are going a little more for Rubio than certainly they are for Trump.
You don't even have to break it down demographically. It's purely based off notoriety. The guy ran for president. Everybody in his district knows him.
And it's a double loss for Democrats there because Congressman Patrick Murphy, who challenged Rubio, his seat is open, and that was just won by a young Republican. So two big losses for the Democrats in Florida. And it really, Marco Rubio choosing to run for re-election is really what saved the Republicans there.
For sure. I think that was their one saving grace with getting him back into those races and actually propelling him to a win. They keep a lot of control within Florida, and you see that they're heading towards either a split or something a little bit more substantial, senatorially speaking.
And now one Senate race that we haven't been able to call yet is in North Carolina, that state that crucial for the presidential race, also crucial for control of the Senate. Deborah Ross and Richard Burr still hasn't been called. It's still too close.
Neck and neck also with Pennsylvania for one of the most expensive Senate races ever to occur. $114 million being pumped into that race. So you see them battling for contested areas. Yet again, we see Durham and Raleigh getting up there, and that's really what's been the driving force behind those campaigns, is that spirited turnout. But we have yet to see that in the national polls so far.
All right, well, when we come back, Michael Tricarico will be live in the newsroom with our decision desk, and we'll have the latest numbers on the race. You're watching Election Night on CitrusTV.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat?
1 in 5 children struggles with hunger in America. Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail.
then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. You're gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Go, okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. So wet.
Michael Tricarico is currently in our newsroom with the decision desk with the latest on incoming poll numbers. So, Michael, what's going on in there?
All right, here in the newsroom where we have a lot of people crunching numbers, and this is only a part of our crew, but I want to start with talking about Florida. We're going to go to Galat Malamed. Crunching numbers here. What's been the big factors in Florida thus far?
Yeah, the big factors, there's a lot of key counties. You have Duval, Seminole, Volusia, and these are all counties that the Democrats, you really need to get. You have the fourth biggest county here, and it's all turning red. I'd say the only hope is that Hillsborough County right here, that has Tampa, and they've predicted every candidate since 1928, except in 92, and right now that's looking blue, so that could be the shining light, but really just the northern part of Florida, it's all red. Jacksonville's going red. Miami stayed blue, but just too much red right now.
What are some other factors we're going to be looking for, and which specific counties as we go along further into the night with already more than 94% reporting?
Yeah, well, Duval County, this is a really big African American population in the state, and Obama, it almost went for Obama in 08. It's a Republican county, but the large African American population there is what could give the Democrats hope. But right now, it's still red, and it's really close. There's about a 2% difference there, with 94% of the votes already in. Tallahassee actually went blue, and the capital there, of course.
All right, I want to continue just along down the line. What are some of the states you're looking at? Again, some of those key points with those states.
Well, we've already called North Dakota. Not too much there, for Trump. One of the big things I'm paying attention to is Nevada. Nevada's at about a 50-50 split right now, and Nevadans are very keen on voting. In 2012, 81% of them voted. So expect a high voter turnout, especially from the Las Vegas metropolitan area. About 2/3 of people in Nevada live there. So we're going to be looking at that, making sure that that county is, kept accounted for and everything like that. But Nevada, it's a swing state, and people in Nevada are excited about that. They're proud about that their vote is mattering a lot. So, yeah.
Thanks, guys. Again, Nevada, one of those states where even if Donald Trump wins Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio, he still would need, likely, Nevada to win the 270 electoral votes needed. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Michael. We'll keep you updated with the decision desk later in the night. We have several states that are still too close to call: North Carolina, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Wisconsin, and Colorado. In North Carolina, 71% of the vote is in, and Hillary Clinton has about 48% of the vote. There are 15 electoral votes at stake there. In New Hampshire, Hillary Clinton also is at about 48% there. That's another one too close to call. Those 4 electoral votes could prove crucial. In Connecticut, Hillary Clinton will win the state of Connecticut. Right now, she has about 54% of the vote, but we are ready to project Hillary Clinton will win the state of Connecticut. In Wisconsin, another one too close to call. Hillary Clinton right now at about 38% of the vote. And in Colorado, Hillary Clinton, 52% of the vote. Another one still too close to call. We'll see what happens there. One aspect of our elections that has received a lot of attention this year is voter fraud. Several states are holding their first election with new voter ID laws passed in part to crack down on voter fraud. Donald Trump has said on the campaign trail several times that widespread voter fraud could rig the election. But how does someone commit voter fraud? And more importantly, is it a widespread problem? Megan Mystery breaks it down for us.
For weeks, Republican nominee Donald Trump has been maintaining that the election is rigged.
On October 17th, he tweeted, quote, "Of course there is large-scale voter fraud happening on and before Election Day. But voter fraud doesn't exactly exist, at least not in the large-scale way that Trump is claiming." A 2012 study by the Pew Center did unveil some startling statistics, like that more than 1.8 million dead people are listed as voters. But despite Rudy Giuliani's claims that dead people tend to vote Democratic, there's no proof that these out-of-date registrations will be casting any fraudulent ballots. To check in on if Onondaga County experiences widespread voter fraud, I spoke with Election Commissioner Dustin Czarny.
Most of the time when we've suspected voter fraud, it turned out to be voter error instead. Maybe somebody signing in the book under the wrong name, or a father signing in for a son that they have the same name. But in the common lexicon of massive voter fraud, that just does not happen.
A reporter from the Washington Post found only 31 cases of voter fraud that could have been prevented from an ID law from 2000 to 2014. But that's just 31 cases out of more than 1 billion ballots cast. Like Czarny says, there can be mistakes by voters in terms of how they cast their ballot or what address they're registered to, but large-scale voter fraud simply doesn't exist. Back to you, Alex.
Thanks, Meg. Early voting began on October 26th in the state of Missouri, and ever since, 36 other states have also begun the process. Early voting numbers are able to give us an idea of how certain states are turning out and how they compare to 2012. So, guys, what are we seeing from the early voting numbers?
We're seeing a strong early voting turnout in these very competitive ground campaign states, especially North Carolina, Ohio, and Wisconsin, especially in the counties that matter, the strong metropolitan areas with a lot of elderly, a lot of liberals, and also a lot of conservative votes making a strong stand. So it's pretty split in terms of early voting. There's only small percentile edges, but we're seeing the numbers come out in droves, especially in Florida. Almost half the state, we're definitely a few points under the margin, but almost half the state voted early. That's a pretty substantial play in this race.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest surprise for me as far as early voting goes was just how much of the vote in Florida was early voting, where a lot of people expected there to be at least an earlier call than normal presidential years in the state of Florida.
Right, especially in those WOW counties in Wisconsin, we're looking at record turnouts, and that's actually boding well, more so on the conservative side at this point. We're still waiting for a lot of results to come in, though.
We will see what happens. On the other side of the break, a look at one of the biggest foreign policy issues in this election, the ongoing conflicts in Iraq and Syria and the related refugee crisis. Don't go anywhere.
You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it?
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got? Or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid. A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close. I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us. But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words. These are not my words. These are not my words.
With the fight against ISIS reaching new heights in Iraq and Syria descending further into civil war, the next president of the United States will have to face two of the most complex quagmires to ever occur in the Middle East. Elijah Shama is here to break down the situations in Iraq and Syria. Elijah, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start. Iraqi forces right now are battling for the city of Mosul. What does that mean?
Basically, what they're trying to take back is they're trying to take back one of the biggest cities that ISIS has ever taken. This city is one of Iraq's largest, and there are about 5,000 U.S. troops engaged currently in that fight. That's one of the largest U.S. populations on the ground anywhere in the Middle East. There are about 30,000 Shia and Peshmerga and Iraqi military forces battling for control of the city. This is a big fight in the fight to kind of end ISIS as a nation-state idea.
Well, what's next after Mosul for ISIS in Iraq?
After Mosul, we're going to see them try and move on the de facto capital of Raqqa. Raqqa is ISIS's capital. If you want to call it a kind of a state capital, that would be it. After that, we'll see ISIS most likely transfer into kind of an Al-Qaeda model, which is this underground terrorism that's going to try and export it as regards to a nation-state idea.
Now, one big player in Iraq is the Kurds. What's the U.S.'s interest with the Kurds right now?
Well, our interest with the Kurds is basically that they are one of the most advanced fighting forces on the ground. They've proven themselves time and time again. These are people that know how to fight and have been fighting. They're reliable, and the U.S. really needs them. The problem is these people want their own state, and that comes with a lot of baggage because Turkey does not want these people to have a state, and Iraq doesn't want them to have a state. So the U.S. is kind of ambivalent on what they're going to give back to the Kurds. They're not necessarily supporting statehood, but they're not going to actively try and deny it.
And so we've had troops in Iraq since Desert Storm in the early 90s. Is that likely to change with the next president?
I would say no. I'd say that the likelihood that we ramp up troops is probably pretty high. Not in a major way, but in the small kind of 600 soldier bursts, special forces units, things like that are probably likely to continue. This is a failed state, and as such, we're going to be cleaning up a mess for a while.
Much of the second presidential debate was about the ongoing crisis in Syria. What can the next president do to contribute to that?
The next president is really going to have to try and find a way to allow humanitarian aid into this city. The government has surrounded Aleppo and cut off kind of all access roads in. That's a population of about 275,000 people who lack access to just basic human needs. There's going to need to be a way to either hold a ceasefire or provide a route for aid to keep these people who are not involved in the combat alive.
Obama set and broke that red line, though, 5 times over. What's to say that further U.S. involvement will look like in Syria?
There's really not much. There's a lot complicating the issue because any kind of direct military involvement the United States takes puts us in direct conflict with Russia. Russia has been backing the government and is largely the reason the government is still standing right now. So any U.S. involvement really needs to tiptoe around the very real possibility that Syria becomes a flashpoint for something much larger, and that's very hard to kind of get an aid situation on the ground.
And so one other thing in the Middle East, looking at that, is the ongoing development of Turkey sort of becoming much more authoritarian. What does that have to do? What is that effect on this?
The effect on this is that Turkey is going to want to be a much bigger player at the table. We see Turkish forces, the YPJ, a Syrian Kurdish group, recently announced that they're going to start an offensive on Raqqa, and specifically said they don't want Turkish help. President Erdogan recently said that that was, quote, naive, and basically he wants to be much more involved in the fight for Syria. He wants to be much more involved in the fight for Iraq. So we're going to see Turkey kind of expanding its sphere of influence in the region tremendously, and not necessarily in a good way.
All right, we will see what happens. Thank you very much, Elijah. There are over 100 Nepali refugees in Syracuse, and Mega Mystery has a story of one who will vote for the first time.
Kamal Gautam spent nearly half of his life in a refugee camp. The 42-year-old left his home in Bhutan in 1992 after political unrest led thousands of an ethnic minority group to flee.
At that time I was in my high school, in my 10th grade, and after that my family was evicted, I had to leave, and then we landed in the refugee camp in Nepal. And life in the refugee camp was obviously harsh, and then people had to suffer a lot.
Gautam was fortunate, being able to leave the camp for his studies and medical school. For 18 years, he lived in a camp of 10,000 people, with 100,000 Bhutanese refugees in Nepal. Eventually, his family made their way to the U.S.
We put up an application for resettlement in the U.S., I think in 2006. So It took around 4 years, but the process is long.
He's been in the States since 2010 and got his citizenship just 9 months ago.
After I became a refugee in Nepal for the last, for the past 18 years, we didn't have any citizenship, no nationality there. So coming back to US and getting a citizenship is a great thing for me and my family.
After just 6 years in the US, Gautam will have the chance to participate in the first election of his life. He'll come here to the Park Rose Estates Retirement Community Center to cast his ballot.
I never voted in my life, and in Bhutan, I think maybe I was 18 when I left Bhutan, and there was no system of election in Bhutan. There is no, I mean, it was a monarchy system there, so there was no election, so we didn't know anything about the elections. In Nepal, we were refugees. We saw a couple of elections there, but we never participated because we are not allowed to do that.
He says he's not the only former refugee in Syracuse voting for the first time this year.
But there are a lot of people from Nepal that came as refugees, and at least maybe 2,500 people here. And at least, I think 100 of them will be voting this year because they are citizens now.
Megan Mystery, Citrus TV News.
We have one more call to make before we go to the break. Citrus TV can now project that Donald Trump will win the state of Louisiana. So with that, let's take a look at the total number of electoral votes as we stand right now. Right now, Donald Trump has 137 electoral votes, Hillary Clinton 104. Both well short of 270. It may be a long night. In just a few minutes, House races have been called all around the country, and many more have yet to be called. We'll give you an update on where the state of the House stands after the break.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent. We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness. I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
Here's your check.
Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome to OPP.
Orange Press Pass is your ticket inside the Syracuse locker room. Hear from the coach.
You can't make it. You're shooting 15%.
I really believe that we're going to start something and play.
Just cutting down the net, I can feel the goosebumps.
Get in-depth analysis, reports on site, and more.
It's all right now on Orange Press Pass.
Orange Press Pass. Live after every Syracuse game.
We've heard politicians make the point of focusing on the issues, and some during this campaign have taken precedent over others. Both Clinton and Trump have touted plans for improving the economy, immigration, and national security. Joining us now to break down these issues is Tom Austin. Tom, thank you for joining us. So, national security, where do they break on this issue?
Well, national security, I mean, it's been a huge issue. Some would say a defining issue of the campaign. You know, Clinton, on one hand, has a more nuanced, more policy-driven approach where she's trying to, you know, use economics, diplomacy, and the military to fight, you know, certain threats like ISIS. You know, by investing in infrastructure at home, education, things like that. Whereas Trump has a more simple approach. You know, more bombing of ISIS, more military spending, immigration controls, things of that sort.
You mentioned the economy. What are the economic policies and the splits between Trump and Clinton?
Well, you know, Clinton has a more bottom-up approach to the economy. She's trying to invest more in college education, specifically, you know, community colleges. She's also trying to, you know, raise the minimum wage, push paid maternal leave, things of that sort. Whereas Trump, Trump saying tax cuts, less regulation, and more things at a macro level.
And in terms of immigration, what are the strategic differences between these two candidates?
I'd say that with Trump, again, it's simpler. And Trump saying, he wants immigration controls. If any, migrant comes into the country from a terror, terror-born type country, he doesn't want them in. Whereas Clinton is saying she wants more naturalization, more integration into our economy, into our society. She wants to remove private detention facilities for immigrants. And it just, again, a more nuanced approach than Trump's.
And so specifically on the issues, one of the big places that there's a difference with them in immigration is the wall. Donald Trump, the big thing has been build the wall, make Mexico pay for it. Another one, though, is trade. Both of them are against the TPP, but they sort of come out talk about trade just a little bit differently.
Well, yes. So after the Bernie Sanders and the more populist sentiment that we're seeing, Hillary Clinton is trying to move away from the TPP. Trump has been adamantly against it from the start. Trump also wants to renegotiate NAFTA terms. And so with regard to trade, they're both trying to ease back, but Trump is definitely harsher on that front.
And that is a huge break from Republican orthodoxy, the Republican nominee repudiating free trade. Well, Tom Austin, thank you for joining us. A few weeks ago, Democrats were salivating over the prospect of possibly retaking the House. With 30 seats needed to flip control and a Hillary Clinton landslide looking unlikely, we now know Democratic control of the House in this election is not in the cards. However, there are still several competitive races with some open seats and some vulnerable incumbents. And so, guys, one of the things that we've seen right now in the Florida 7th, Democrats picked up one big win. Republican incumbent John Micah is knocked out there after 12 terms in Congress.
It's creating a pretty strong disconnect amongst the Florida voters, and we've seen that reflected in how they've turned out in the polls. It's a state where the more north you go, the more south it gets, and that mantra is reigning true, but it is creating a pretty strong discord.
And another one in Florida we want to look at is the Florida 13th. That's when David Jolly was running for Senate, but then when Marco Rubio decided to run, he dropped out of that race. And he's going to lose his seat, it looks like, to former Republican governor, now a Democratic congressional candidate, Charlie Crist, which is a really interesting development.
Charlie Crist, who previously lost to Marco Rubio when he ran for Senate, has had a pretty strong political career in Florida, and you've seen it take shape here. The voters like him. The voters like that he shakes it up a little bit, going between these two policies and parties, and that's definitely reflected in the box score today.
I think any time you can get a candidate that can at least show or at least put out there that they can work between parties, it certainly makes them stronger to voters, even without delving specifically into the issues.
For sure.
And one out west that is interesting is the California 49th. It's orange. It's like a very conservative area of California. The district hasn't gone Democrat since Roosevelt. The incumbent Darrell Issa is in for a very difficult race. He's running against a former Marine. And he actually, Darrell Issa, who, interesting, he was the chairman of the House Government Oversight Committee, sort of made his living as a President Obama antagonist, as most opposition oversight committee chairmen have to do. But he sent out a mailer to his district of President Obama saying President Obama signed one of his bills, which is a really interesting campaign tactic.
You've also got the opposite side of the ticket endorsed vigorously by the Obama campaign or the Obama administration, and then you also have him with no political experience. So there's a dynamic there where, yes, there's a more experienced incumbent with political endorsements that range from Donald Trump to whomever else, but the biggest thing is people want a different face within that race, and that's what we're seeing.
And another big one is in Northern Virginia and Loudoun County, a bellwether county in the state. We're taking a look. Barbara Comstock is trying to hold on to her seat. It's been a reliably red county, but Loudoun County has been becoming more blue as the years have gone on. We're still counting the votes there, but we'll see what happens with her. That's another big one that Democrats have targeted.
Northern Virginia has changed so much in the past 10 years. It's become a microcosm for a lot of the cross-pollination that we see in Ohio, where a lot of different sects of the population are coming together and notice on a very small scale, obviously, where you're from, and you've seen that difference firsthand. The Hispanic vote is a huge portion of that district now. It's also a huge black population as well, and it's become an incredibly diverse area of Virginia that is driving a large part of that Democratic vote there.
Yeah, it's also interesting to see the effect that Tim Kaine being on the Democratic ticket has in that state as well.
All right, well, we'll see what happens there. Coming up, we'll preview the states being called at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and Dan will give us another look at the swing states yet to be called. Stay with us.
If you see news happening on campus in Syracuse or across the nation, call the Citrus TV newsroom at 315-443-1177 or tweet at Citrus TV News, your campus news leader.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Come on, it's not that hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Got a quarter?
We are less than 10 minutes away from more polls closing throughout the country. Josh and Michael, what could we see coming up?
Well, we're going to see a strong turnout in Michigan. We're going to see a big difference in the polling, as well as Pennsylvania being checked off in certain columns. Northern Virginia we're looking at, obviously Ohio coming in. There is a lot happening at the top of the hour.
Yeah, Virginia, 14% of precincts still remaining. Clinton down just by 5,000 votes, so it'll be interesting to see if she can come back, and certainly a good chance that she could.
But that is, the Clinton campaign has to be sweating tonight right now. That is one of the states in their firewall. It's going to be very hard for them if they lose Virginia, so we'll see what happens as those Northern Virginia suburbs keep coming in. And looking at Wisconsin, that's another one where we still haven't called it yet, same with Michigan. But as we're looking at right now in Virginia, like you said, it's about 10,000 votes away with 80% of the precincts in. Like we said, those Northern Virginia suburbs are always the last to report. So it may be enough for Clinton, but we'll see. In Wisconsin, 21% in, 51 to 44 for Donald Trump. They can't be feeling too good about that in Brooklyn tonight for the Clinton campaign. So we will see what happens there. And Iowa, Nevada, and Utah will all close in about 10 minutes. Iowa looks like a prime pickup for Trump to pick up a state that President Obama won twice.
It was leaning throughout this week, and we saw a strong push there. But the ultimate statement that you can make when it comes to Trump making a final push with these states is if he's going around the clock and making these short visits, it screams desperation as opposed to actual groundwork being suitable to overcome that huge margin there.
Well, we will see what happens. With polls from the mountain time zones coming in and more states being called, the map is starting to take shape. Dan Prager's here to give us another update on which states he's looking at and the swing states we have yet to call.
Thanks, Alex. And it's important to remember right now is pretty surprising for both campaigns. Exit polls were showing that Clinton was going to coast to victory. But let's look at two states that Trump really wants to win if he wants to have a chance. First, we have Wisconsin. In 2012, this whole area in the southwest corner went for Obama pretty fairly. They saw Romney more as an upper-class Republican who didn't have a connection to them. This time, Trump is really targeting them. He has a very good chance to take all of this half of Wisconsin and turn most of those counties red. Another place to look at, Josh, you've been talking this whole time about these three wow counties right in here, Waukesha, Ozaukee, and Washington. And all three of them voted for Romney by about 30 to 40 points. Trump is holding with those, and earlier polls said he wasn't going to. So that's another pleasant surprise for the Trump campaign. If Clinton wants to win, she has to improve numbers there, she has to hold in here, and she also has to win Dane County by a solid margin. Dane had record numbers this election in early voting, and they look poised to give Clinton a solid boost, but who knows now. Next, we move on to Michigan, where right now Clinton's only winning about 4 to 5 counties, last I checked. Those counties were Detroit, a suburb, Lansing, and Flint. So it's really not looking good for her. All of these counties, Michigan does usually go red in most of their non-urban counties, but all of those counties, all of these right in here, are really going red right now, and that can change. A lot of the Michigan vote isn't in, and to prove that, a lot of Wayne County, which is where Detroit is pretty close, and that's not what's going to happen in the election if it's a normal election. So right now, Clinton's really got to hope that there's this vote that still is yet to come for her, because if not, it is looking really bad for her campaign.
Right now, Hillary Clinton has pulled ahead in the state of Virginia. It is still too close to call. We'll see what happens. When we come back at the top of the hour, polls closing in Utah, Montana, Nevada, and Iowa. We'll have the latest numbers, and Jamie Weiss is at a watch party right here on campus. We'll go to her live. You're watching Election Night on Citrus TV.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
I spy something beginning with S.
Snow?
No.
Snow-covered trees?
Nothing to do with snow.
Head outside to discover incredible animals and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure.
Wow.
So grab your loved ones.
Don't even.
And explore a world of possibilities.
Come on, this way.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you.
Fancy pants peanut butter? A big screen television? You haven't even bought a sofa yet. A motorcycle? When your father finds out, he's gonna flip his shoes with 2 buckles? What do you even need 2 buckles for? Mr. Big Shot, buying whiskey shots for everybody in the bar. From the looks of it, I'd say nobody even remembers. Feed the pig.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
This is a movement like our country has never seen before.
The change you've been waiting for your entire life.
We are going to win back the White House.
Don't ever forget what we are capable of being. I love our country and I believe in our people. And I will never, ever quit on you.
Welcome back. Now we have Jamie Weiss with us live at Shine Student Center at one of the campus watch parties. Jamie, tell us what the atmosphere is like in Shine right now.
Well, Alex, the atmosphere here is insane. It's buzzing. You almost can't even hear anything. That's how loud it is. I'm joined by Simon Wexler. He's a part of Orange After Dark. They're the organization that is putting on tonight's campus watch party. Thank you so much for being here, Simon. No problem. So tell me, how has all of tonight been going? You guys started at what time, and why did you guys decide to do a campus watch party tonight?
So we started at about 8 p.m. tonight. Since then, people have been flowing in pretty regularly. It's a little bit quieter now than it was about an hour ago. People have been coming in, watching the results come in, enjoying all the food we have. We really wanted to do this event because we wanted to bring a sense of community to the campus so people could enjoy and view the election as a collective as opposed to individuals in their room. It was something a little bit different than our usual, late night targeted program, and instead just a way to foster a campus community.
Awesome. And so there's been so many students here. Have you seen students preferring one candidate over the other over the course of the night?
Yeah. When the results come in, whenever Trump hits a state, you hear like a loud gasp or a sigh. So people tend to be a little more Clinton heavy here, but we're respecting everyone's views, and we encourage anyone of any party affiliation to come enjoy the time.
And now election night is not over. We've still got a couple hours to go. We're still waiting for results. What is your plan for the rest of tonight?
So we're going to be here probably for a couple hours more ourselves. As long as there are people here, people want to stay. Odds are we're going to stay ourselves until probably about midnight, 1 o'clock. We really just want to be here for people in the end, share hugs if people need hugs, and really just have that place for people to be.
All right, well, thank you so much, Simon. I mean, I don't know about you guys in the studio, but I think we're going to watch some of the show here, so I'll see you guys in an hour.
Thanks so much, Jamie. As we begin the new hour, more polls have closed. Josh, Mike, what are we looking for here?
All eyes on Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan's got to be the big one because if Trump wins Michigan, it means he doesn't have to win Nevada, and there are a couple others he doesn't have to win.
Yeah, we talked about the big blue wall of the 240 plus electoral votes. If Trump can crack that, it's going to definitely shake up this race. We're still waiting on Florida and Michigan and Wisconsin. Virginia, she's pulled narrowly ahead, but they still haven't called that race definitively yet. It's looking like we might be in for a very long night and maybe into the next day.
For sure. One critical thing that we got to mention about Michigan is the Detroit dynamic. It's heavily Democratic, but we've seen a huge sway in terms of their absentee ballots as well as voting early that has actually substantially hurt the region. So we're waiting to hear reports on that, and those are 16 very important electoral votes that we're waiting on.
It's going to definitely be, the Clinton campaign has got to be sweating it out right now, looking like their firewall might not be quite as strong as they thought it was.
Very much so.
Now we go over to Dan to look at the full map. Dan, what's it look like right now?
Well, this really isn't what anybody expected after especially exit polls and early vote kind of showed Clinton with an advantage, especially in Florida. Right now, you have Trump up in Michigan, close in Wisconsin. Pennsylvania, the vote is kind of low, but Clinton is holding on. So really, what Trump needs to do right now, if we look at the 2012 map where Obama beat Romney, he needs to steal. If he can win Florida, if he can take back Florida, assuming he takes back Ohio and Iowa, which he most likely will, he needs to just take one of these larger states, probably Wisconsin, Michigan, maybe Pennsylvania, maybe even Virginia, which nobody saw as a swing state coming into tonight. But really, the main focus should be on the Rust Belt states of Wisconsin and Michigan, because if Clinton loses one of those and she loses Florida and North Carolina, it goes to Trump. Trump wins this election.
Well, thank you, Dan. We are ready to call a few states right now. The state of Montana and its 3 electoral votes will go to Donald Trump. Now, on the other side of the break, Tom Austin will join us to break down the new waves of voters that have been brought into the light during this election cycle. Don't go anywhere.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? It may be too late to check when you're on the road. Fortunately, you're on the couch. Don't think you know. Know you know.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Welcome back. Before we get started, let's take a look at the current electoral vote totals. Donald Trump has 140 electoral votes, just 130 short of the 270 he needs to win. Hillary Clinton behind at 104. Now, this election has seen the rise of new voting trends for both parties, and they have, in a large part, shaped the outcomes we've seen statewide and nationwide. Tom Austin is joining us now to discuss the new wave of voters in 2016. Tom, thank you for joining us. So let's start. What are the biggest changes we've seen in the voting population this year?
Well, you're seeing changes, in demographics, but also in ideology. In terms of demographics, the age of voters is changing a bit. Voter registration numbers have shown a lot of millennials are registering. And also, in terms of demographics, you're seeing with Hispanics a large increase in that, and the white share of the voting population is simply falling. When it comes to how that affects the race, I mean, there are a lot of implications. Advantage Dems in one sense, and advantage Republicans.
And looking toward to the future, what do these demographic shifts mean for each of these parties?
Yeah, well, with demographics, you're seeing, because there's non-white, younger, more educated voters, the Electoral College, you would presume that it's advantage Democrats. You're not really seeing much of it right now. But according to past voter trends and things of that sort, it would be advantage Democrats.
What do these demographic shifts mean exactly for the candidates now and, of course, for the future?
Well, for the candidates themselves, again, you would think it's advantage Clinton. She's not enjoying the same type of support from Hispanic voters as Obama did, 4 years ago. But again, like I said, it would be advantage Clinton. Now, there's a strong ideological difference throughout this race, and we've seen it sway both sides. What does this mean for the parties going forward? Well, because there's more of an anti-establishment type sentiment rising, you're seeing more splitting of parties, where some voters in the Democratic Party, for instance, want a more progressive agenda, like Bernie Sanders was touting earlier. For Republicans, you're seeing a split between more establishment and more hawkish, more hardline Trump supporters. And so that type of split is changing how we're seeing the votes come in.
And these ideological splits, not just the parties, but for these candidates, how has this shaped how they've run their campaigns?
Well, they have to kind of curate their agendas to those demands. Hillary Clinton has to move further left on things like trade, on things like Wall Street reform, tuition rates, things that Bernie Sanders was pushing during his campaign. Trump, on the other hand, he's enjoying a lot of this anti-establishment, this populist uprising. He's receiving a lot of his support from that charge.
And we said earlier, though, trade might be one of the most interesting changes this cycle for the Republican Party. Usually very much in favor of free trade, and with Donald Trump, they sort of completely threw that out the window.
Right. Yeah, and so with the free trade, like you had said before, it deviates a lot from the Republican platform, and that's it harkens back to what I said, where there's a splitting. There is this resentment for the establishment, for these TPP, these NAFTA trade deals that seem to give advantage to certain people over regular voters.
Tom Austin, thanks so much. Much of the focus this and every election cycle is on the presidential election, and deservedly so. But the most direct effect often comes from state and local elections. While the presidency and the Senate are still up in the air, the control of state legislatures and governorships is dominated by the GOP. Here with more on this is Paul Dwyer.
Thanks, Alex. Currently, Republicans have a large majority of governors across the nation, leading Democrats 31 to 18. Republicans also control both state legislature chambers in 31 states, while Democrats only control 11 state legislatures and 8 chambers are split. Tonight, there are 12 governorships up for grabs. Democrats are defending 8 of those seats compared to Republicans just defending 4. So it could be difficult for Democrats to make up much ground on the Republican majority. There's a lot of uncertainty on how these 12 seats are going to swing. It looks like Democrats have a 3-2 edge on locked up seats going into tonight, and the other 7 races are all competitive. Let's take a look at 2 particularly important races to keep an eye on tonight. First, in North Carolina, Republican Governor Pat McCrory is defending his seat against Democratic challenger Roy Cooper. Governor McCrory has made national headlines in the past year for signing HB 2 into law, often referred to as the bathroom bill, which blocked anti-discrimination measures that protects those in the LGBT community. Despite this, McCrory has pulled even in most polls, so this race is truly a toss-up. Moving on to Indiana, where Vice Presidential nominee Mike Pence vacated his seat to run with Donald Trump. In comes Republican Eric Holcomb to take on Democrat John Gregg, who Pence beat in 2012. Gregg has led most of the election cycle, but Indiana's increased support in Trump and other down-ballot Republicans is rising, so this is a very interesting race to watch. Other states to keep an eye on tonight are Missouri, New Hampshire, Vermont, West Virginia, and Montana. Back to you, Alex.
Thanks, Paul. Today, millions of Americans voiced their right to vote, but it was just 96 years ago when women finally earned that right. CitrusTV reporter Jamie Weiss was in Rochester this morning to visit the home of one woman whose fight for women's suffrage stands the test of time.
If you travel an hour and a half outside the city of Syracuse, you'll find Rochester, the historic home of suffragette Susan B. Anthony.
So this is the house where she got arrested for voting in 1872, when she and 14 other women walked out Main Street and were challenging, based on the 14th Amendment, saying that women had the right to vote already because anyone who's born in the country is a citizen. And she got arrested right here in this house for having done that. She was found guilty of being a woman who had presented herself to vote. It was a felony, and she was fined $100. This is also the house that was the headquarters for the National American Woman Suffrage Association. So this wasn't just the place where people slept. This is a place where the work was being done.
While Susan B. Anthony's life came to a close just 4 years before the addition of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote, thousands of people from across the country have been flocking to Rochester, where they have laid stickers just like these ones on Susan B. Anthony's gravesite to honor and thank her for her dedication and commitment 110 years later.
And you know, it's such a historic event that just wanted to be part of it. Absolutely.
Well, it's huge. For my children, they're going to grow up with this as part of their collective history. And they won't feel the change. But for me, I'll be able to see it all the way throughout my life.
No matter the outcome of tonight's election, there was one message that all visitors of the grave had in common.
I can't believe I'm here. I'm loving it.
In Rochester, Jamie Weiss, CitrusTV News.
Now, Josh, you're following some developments in the markets tonight. What are you seeing?
For sure, Alex, we're already seeing the Dow Jones futures trading already in the negative 475 points, and we can see that the U.S. dollar is also facing some fears as well due to protectionist currencies against the peso, as well as against other nations that Donald Trump has made a stink about trading with. So we've seen stocks turn negative. We've seen the U.S. dollar go negative. This is showing a huge amount of wariness within the general public and the global concerns that are related to this race. So all eyes are on the race right now globally.
Layman's terms, what does this mean?
Layman's terms, this means that the markets are down because people are fearful that Trump will actually pull through.
Well, in addition to that, they also didn't expect Trump to even be this close.
Absolutely
this
not.
late into the race.
There was supposed to be a rally and recovery for the Clinton campaign if they were to pull through with this, where we'd see stocks rebound and actually banks and big pharma would go down. But we're seeing the converse, where there's actually huge protectionist policies that are being put in place.
Now, we have 2 projections to make before we go to the break. We can call the state of Missouri for Donald Trump, and we can call the state of New Mexico for Hillary Clinton. Neither of those particularly surprising. In just a few minutes now, Michael Tricaric will be back in the newsroom with our decision desk to break down all the states we still have yet to call. And Shruti Marathe was with the college Democrats and college Republicans to see what they're up to on this election night. Stay with us.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back. As states continue to come in, the outlook on the path to 270 is constantly changing. Michael Tricaric is back in the newsroom with our decision desk. What can you tell us right now?
All right, thanks, Alex. We're here once again in the newsroom where we're going to start with Virginia. I'm going to go over to Tom. We're going to talk Virginia. Right now, too close to call. It was a state that leaning not heavily towards Clinton, but you expected it more to Clinton. Now it's too close to call right now.
Well, exactly as you said, right now you can't quite get a firm grasp on it. It's looking like it's going to go Clinton, but you can't be sure. It's actually somewhat of a surprise. It went for Obama in the last two elections, but before that, dating all the way back to Reagan's first term in 1980, it has consistently been a red state. The change has been in the D.C. area, in the northern counties. You've also seen a larger Hispanic population move into those counties, and they are really what has started to swing Virginia to a blue state, and it's been a really big pickup in the past few elections for the Democrats.
So why then is Donald Trump doing so well this year in Virginia?
That just comes down to the polling being questionable and no one really being sure how it's going right now.
All right, thanks, Tom. Now let's head over to the other side of the newsroom. We're going to talk a little bit about Michigan. Michigan, another one that Hillary Clinton thought to have a big stronghold on, but right now Donald Trump actually leading in Michigan. That one is also too close to call. Why?
We're waiting still for a lot of the results out of Wayne County, where Detroit is. Clinton's heavily relying on the black vote in Wayne County to turn out. Trump made a heavy push in the past few days of the election to try and get Virginia because they thought it was in Virginia, Michigan because they thought it was in play. So it's really dependent on how the turnout in Detroit, if Clinton's going to be able to carry the state or not. But it definitely is a lot closer than they expected it to be.
And again, another point to point out, Donald Trump is performing a lot better in the rural areas of both Virginia and Michigan than Mitt Romney did in 2012.
Thanks, Michael. Tonight is also a big night for the college Democrats and college Republicans here at SU. The groups have been discussing the election since the primaries, and tonight both organizations are hosting viewing parties. CitrusTV reporter Shruti Marathe brings us a closer look.
The race for the White House is almost over, but organizations on the Syracuse University campus have been on the sidelines from the beginning. Both the college Republicans and the college Democrats have been heavily involved in the 2016 election. And while they acknowledge the faults in their party's candidates, they're fighting for their nominee to take the presidency.
I can understand where people see where Hillary seems out of touch. She's very, I would say, scripted at times, but that's just, it's politics. But you have to look at the end of the day, what does she stand for? What is she going to do in the White House? And I think that's what makes her the superior candidate, obviously, over Donald Trump.
I think most of our members supported more establishment candidates such as Marco Rubio or John Kasich, but the people of the Republican Party have spoken and they overwhelmingly supported Donald Trump, and we're focused on defeating Hillary Clinton, and we know the best way to do that is by supporting Donald Trump.
Beyond the politics of the election, the organizations are committed to exploring conservative and liberal policy during their meetings.
We want to have a place where conservative-leaning people can discuss their ideas and feel safe discussing their ideas, and also help mobilize people, whether that's by getting to the polls or being more active on campus, bringing speakers in to get our perspective out there and to let people know what our ideology is.
The civic engagement both organizations are a part of show a stark divide between most college students. Only 17% of 18 to 24-year-olds voted in the last election, but the college Democrats and Republicans want to change that.
Where we had get out to vote events, we were registering people to vote, and we also help people if they're from different states, how they go about absentee ballots, and yeah.
We really want to get everybody out to vote because we know that in 2012, the Republican Party didn't have a very good turnout. About 2 to 3 million Republicans stayed home in that election. Had they gone out and vote, maybe the results would have been different.
Anti-establishment candidates are also expected to shake things up with voter turnout.
A lot of people see Hillary as, corrupt, she doesn't represent us, but then a majority of people see Trump as the outsider, and he doesn't represent African Americans, he doesn't represent women, his remarks that have been leaked every month, really. So I think that the election has, if anything, made voting turnout go up, especially young people.
The presidential election isn't the only concern for the two organizations. Both groups are focused on the local election where John Katko and Colleen Deacon are vying for a seat in the House of Representatives.
Some of our members, myself included, have been interning and volunteering with the Katko campaign, so we've been very active with that. Phone calls, door-to-door knocking, general office duties, trying to mobilize voters in the 24th Congressional District.
We recently had an event with Colleen Deacon. She's a congresswoman running in Syracuse against Katko, and we didn't really speak. It was mostly her event, but we had questions. We asked her some, and others answered, and she obviously represents democratic values, so she answered a lot of things for students.
Ultimately, both the college Republicans and the college Democrats hope to foster a discussion and understanding of the issues.
The whole idea of being bipartisan, trying to meet halfway down the aisle is starting to fade away. So if people don't think their voice doesn't matter, if anything, it matters more than ever now, because I think candidates are getting more and more aggressive, and they're not willing to compromise. So I think for the upcoming years, people really need to understand what their beliefs are and actively participate in them.
Shruti Marante, CitrusTV.
Thanks, Shruti. And on the other side of the break, Sarah Nevin will bring us the latest on the races in the New York State Senate and whether or not Democrats will be able to seize control for just the second time since 1938. You're watching Election Night on CitrusTV.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat?
1 in 5 children struggles with hunger in America. Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation letter.
You're resigning.
Why? Because you're constantly ignoring me. You're half as active as you used to be, and you get stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me.
Okay, but remember, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. It's gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
The Middle East is a region that's been visited by every president since Franklin D. Roosevelt. It's also a foreign policy region that's been a make or break moment for U.S. presidents. From Carter and the Iranian hostage crisis to the Bushes and Iraq, its importance in the U.S. domestic politics cannot be overstated. Elijah Shama is here to break down the Middle East that the next president of the United States will face. Elijah, thanks once again for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
There's a Cold War of sorts going on in the Middle East. What's going on there?
Basically, we're seeing kind of two main countries fighting for spheres of influence. We're seeing Iran kind of pushing into Syria and Lebanon, and we're seeing Saudi Arabia trying to exert its influence in Yemen and kind of those surrounding regions. But the big conflict right now is between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Both of them are trying to fill the vacuum that Iraq has kind of left after the fall of Saddam Hussein. And that's going to cause a lot of tension. They're both kind of fighting these little proxy battles.
Well, what do U.S. allies in the region look like, and how are those alliances shifting?
Well, right now, U.S. allies in the region are very, very much kind of the same old players. We recently signed a $38 billion aid package with Israel. They're not going anywhere. They're one of the U.S. strongest allies in the region. We also have Saudi Arabia, who's very pro-U.S. We send them a ton of military equipment. And then we're also trying to shift our way into Iran's sphere of influence. The Iran nuclear deal has kind of softened relationships, but we're still kind of looking to expand U.S. influence in that region.
How's the next U.S. president going to work with the ongoing war in Afghanistan?
Well, the ongoing war in Afghanistan is still very much ongoing. People fail to realize that there's still almost 10,000 U.S. soldiers on the ground in Afghanistan, very much combat troops. And there really is no decided plan on how to deal with these people and how to pull them out, because we are losing ground in Afghanistan. The Taliban has made fantastic comebacks in Kunduz province and other regions. And there really doesn't seem to be a lot of conversation about the war. It wasn't mentioned in any of the debates. So we really don't know where a lot of the presidential candidates stand on Afghanistan.
How do you see the ground involvement of U.S. troops shaping in the next 4 years?
I see kind of a die-down in U.S. involvement. I think that the domestic public here has kind of had enough of Middle Eastern wars, and they kind of haven't seen the return on investment, to say the least. I think whichever presidential candidate we have is going to look to pull out of the Middle East. Whether or not that's a sound strategy will probably be seen in the next 10 to 20 years.
Is there any country that may become more important in the Middle East in the near future?
I think the country that everyone should be talking about that's largely been ignored is Yemen. There's a war going on between the Houthis, who are backed by Iran, and kind of the government, who has been backed by Saudi and other Gulf states. It's kind of the definition of this Cold War playing out in the region. And it's kind of amazing that the Saudis haven't been able to kick out the Houthi rebels, even though they've been fighting kind of tooth and nail with U.S. aid and U.S. support. And that is a war that we are involved in and that we might get tried for war crimes in.
Well, Elijah, thank you for joining us. We'll continue to follow these issues as they develop. Some of the lesser-known races to watch tonight are in the New York State Senate. While several seats are going unopposed, many are still up in the air. Democrats took control of the Senate in 2008, but it was short-lived as several Democrats changed their affiliation. This cycle, the Democrats have another chance of recapturing the Senate, and here with more is Sarah Nevin.
Thanks, Alex. 2 contested races in Nassau County on Long Island is all that keeps the Democratic Party from securing majority control of the New York State Senate for the first time since 2008. Before that, the Democrats had not controlled the state Senate since 1938. By the numbers, the Democrats already have control of the Senate, 32 Democrats to 31 Republicans. However, 5 of those Democrats are part of their own faction called the Independent Democratic Conference. They often vote alongside Republican senators, allowing the GOP to maintain actual control of the chamber. But this year, the Democrats have several advantages to win key races. For starters, the recent arrest of Nassau County Republican Executive Ed Mangano on corruption charges has hindered the Republican Party's reputation throughout the state. Republicans also fear that the unpopularity of Donald Trump will affect turnout for Republican races, and the traditional older white residents of Long Island are being replaced by younger immigrants who lean Democrat. Normally, state Senate races are easy to call, but this year, 6 of those 63 races could go any way. The two key races, however, 2 of those districts, District 40 and 41, are leaning Republican based on results right now. 2 key districts in Nassau County could determine the race for the Democrats. In the 9th District, Republican Senator Dean Skelos held the seat for 30 years, but was expelled after being convicted in 2015 on corruption charges. Democrat Todd Kaminsky was elected in April during a special election, but today voters will determine whether or not to keep him in office or elect Republican attorney Chris McGrath, who Kaminsky beat in April by just 1.2%. Now, polls show McGrath with an 8-point lead, giving state Republicans a much-needed edge. The Senate seat in the 7th District is open after Republican Jack Martins made a run for Congress. Vying for the seat is Republican Flower Hill Mayor Elaine Phillips and Democratic businessman Adam Haber. This race is too close to call, but it's a much-needed win for Democrats. Now, Governor Andrew Cuomo has endorsed both Democratic candidates. In the past, Cuomo has stayed quiet regarding state races, but this year he is publicly advocating and campaigning for control of the legislature. If the Dems do gain control of the Senate, they will control all 3 chambers of the state legislature, with a Democratic governor and a solid majority in the state assembly. So, what would a Democratic-controlled state mean? If Democrats gain control of the Senate, teacher unions will likely win more funding for public schools, while charter schools would lose funding and face more oversight. Climate change bills and the DREAM Act, which would allow undocumented students to get financial aid, will likely pass and be made law. And in a move to, quote, get the corruption out of Albany, Democrats are also pushing for campaign finance reform, along with laws to address corruption. Opponents say that the unprecedented Democratic control will limit checks and balances on the party's agenda. But after 20 years of Republican control and a wave of corruption and ethics violations, a political shakeup may be just what voters want. Alex?
Before we go to the break, we have one more call to make. We can now project that the state of Ohio will be won by Donald Trump. That is an absolutely crucial win for him. When we come back, I sat down with constitutional law professor Thomas Keck to talk about the current state of the Supreme Court and what the next president can look forward to. You won't want to miss it.
You can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Before we begin, we have another call to make. We can now project that my home Commonwealth of Virginia will go to Hillary Clinton. That is a huge win for Hillary Clinton. She right now is ahead 48-47, a really big win as she tries to hold her firewall. Now, though it hasn't received as much attention as more hot-button issues, the Supreme Court is central to this election. This is the first presidential election since the Shelby County v. Holder decision in 2013 nullified a section of the Voting Rights Act. As a result, several states have passed new election-related laws. At the same time, Merrick Garland continues to wait for a hearing and a vote to replace the late, great Antonin Scalia on the High Court. What effect will the court have on the election, and what does the future hold for Garland? I sat down with Maxwell Constitutional Law Professor Thomas Keck to find out. Let's start by talking about Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. What is it, and what's recently happened with it?
Okay, so we got to go back to 1965 to where the story begins after Dr. King leads the march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, major voting rights activism in the South. President Johnson signs the Voting Rights Act, right? And the Voting Rights Act has a number of major provisions designed to enfranchise African Americans in the South. Some of those provisions apply nationwide, right? So there are some federal guarantees of voting rights that apply everywhere. The Voting Rights Act said that state and local governments are not allowed to make any changes to their election laws without getting federal approval. And the logic for that was that there are some things that are explicitly and obviously racially discriminatory, right? So sometimes there were laws that said African Americans aren't allowed to register to vote, but often by the 1960s, it was more subtle forms of discrimination. So there would be things like literacy tests or poll taxes, or even the location of the polling places and the number of polling machines that you provide each polling place. Those things would be used to disenfranchise African American voters. And so to try to prevent those tactics from continuing, they required federal approval. If you want to change any part of your election laws at all, you got to get federal approval. And in a recent case called Shelby County versus Holder, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down that provision. They said that because the Congress had not updated that list of covered jurisdictions, that it was, the 60s were a long time ago, the documented history of Jim Crow segregation was kind of ancient history, and there was no longer sufficient justification for this federal government to assert such significant oversight over state election law.
And so, following the Shelby County decision, this is going to be the first presidential election since that decision. What sort of effect could that have on something like, say, election inspectors across the country?
So immediately after the decision, so even before Shelby County, so back up a little further. So in 2010, in the 2010 midterm elections, the Republican Party captured full control of state legislatures in a number of states, in a greater number of states than it had had previously. And so there was a wave of kind of conservative legislation being enacted at the state level across all different kinds of issues, lots of anti-abortion laws and the like. And a number of these state legislatures passed various restrictions on voting beginning in 2010. Lots of these restrictions face legal challenges, but then after Shelby County, the grounds for those legal challenges, many of those grounds had been removed. And so there were a couple state legislatures that immediately following Shelby County, they enacted some restrictions that they knew that they would not previously have been allowed to do. They would have had to get federal Justice Department approval, but now all of a sudden, Shelby County removed that requirement, so they put some more provisions into law right away. Meanwhile, the federal Justice Department has said, because these provisions of the Voting Rights Act are no longer operative, they don't have authority to send in the same range of election inspectors that they would once have done. Federal government doesn't have as much authority to oversee state election laws as it had before Shelby County, so they don't have as much justification to send election inspectors into these jurisdictions.
Going on to Merrick Garland now, he's been waiting to be confirmed for quite some time.
Sure.
Obviously, if Donald Trump were to get elected, he would appoint someone else. But if Hillary Clinton were to get elected, what do you think happens to Merrick Garland? Do you think he's confirmed in a lame duck session? And if not, do you think that Hillary Clinton tries to get him confirmed, or does she appoint her own nominee?
So nobody knows, right? So it's just speculation. But and so it depends what happens in the presidential race, and it also depends what happens in the Senate races, right? So if Hillary Clinton is elected president and Democrats capture majority control of the U.S. Senate, then all year long there has been speculation that the rational thing for Republican senators at that point to do would be to confirm Merrick Garland during the lame duck session. Merrick Garland is a widely respected federal judge who many Republican senators have praised repeatedly in the past. During the previous 2 vacancies that Obama filled, Merrick Garland's name was suggested by Republican senators as a possible nominee. So he's certainly as Democratic nominees go, he should be more acceptable to Republican senators than some unknown nominee that President Clinton might make, particularly because Merrick Garland is, I believe, 64 years old, which is significantly older than the average Supreme Court nominees in recent years, right? So Hillary Clinton could well nominate somebody who's 20 years younger, which, if you're a Republican senator, is should be a worse outcome. So there's incentives for the Republican senators to confirm Garland during the lame duck session. But will they actually do that? That would seem to be the rational and strategic thing to do. But will they actually do that? Nobody really knows. They've been on record saying all year, we're not going to give him a hearing. We're not going to consider him. Now, the issue, all year long, Republican senators the argument that they've made is we're not even going to consider Garland because it should be up to the American people to weigh in, decide our next president, and then the next president should decide. But now at least 3 Republican senators have publicly said, if Hillary Clinton wins the election, we will do our best to not confirm any of her nominees to the Supreme Court for a full 4-year term, which is completely in tension with everything they've said all year about the reasons for not considering Garland, and it's a truly unprecedented degree of obstructionism.
Okay, so my last question is, regardless of who wins the election, the Supreme Court is going to wrestle with a lot of issues in the next 4 or 8 years. What do you think is the biggest constitutional issue that the Supreme Court will have to weigh in on under the next president?
One thing I would say is, so there are issues that we know are on the agenda, right? There are long-standing issues that have been sort of polarized political conflicts that the Supreme Court has repeatedly been called to weigh in on. Like abortion and gay rights, right? So the Supreme Court recently agreed to hear a case involving transgender bathroom access, right? So that's on the court's agenda for this coming year, and there will likely be further cases in that vein. There are other issues which have been major, have been significant controversial decisions in recent history that were closely divided on the Supreme Court. So cases like Shelby County or like Citizens United versus FEC, where when Hillary's been asked at the presidential debates, what kind of Supreme Court justices will you support? She's repeatedly said, I want justices who will support voting rights for everyone and who will overturn Citizens United.
And Citizens United was a big one that Bernie Sanders said in the primary, too. He said that was his litmus test.
For sure, and it was a 5-4 decision, right? And one of those 5 is no longer on the court. So the court is currently divided 4-4 on the merits of Citizens United. So presumably, if either Garland is confirmed or President Clinton gets to name the next justice, presumably advocates of campaign finance regulation will figure out a way to get the campaign finance issue back to the Supreme Court as quickly as they can, on the hope that the court would be willing to cut back on at least, or possibly even reverse Citizens United. So there's longstanding issues like abortion and gay rights. There's recent controversial decisions that there might be pressure to reverse, depending which way the presidential election comes out. And then there's new and unanticipated issues that are unanticipated, so we don't know what they are. Like what happens globally? Are there new national security issues that dominate a Clinton or Trump presidency?
In just a few minutes, Megan Mystery will break down the voter ID laws across the nation and what impact they have on turnout. Stay with us.
Taking care of a family member can lead to plenty of questions. Fortunately, there's a place to get the answers, for them and for you. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it,
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got, or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Now let's begin with the latest update with our Electoral College vote. We've called a few more states, so let's take a look at where we stand in the Electoral College. Donald Trump, 164 electoral votes, just over 100 away from the 270 he needs to become president. Hillary Clinton is at 122 electoral votes. There's still a lot of states left to be called. We'll see what happens. Now, politics is all about image. To voters who are learning about candidates as they campaign, perception truly is reality. Now, let's talk about how each of these candidates have sort of shaped their branding in these campaigns. What do you think has happened here, Josh?
I think Trump was based principally on populism and authoritarianism. He thought that the American people needed a commanding voice to lead with structure, to get back to America, as he claims, winning again, but that winning again is really just a return to domestic values, as if we were spreading ourselves thin. So he's kind of brought the base back home. That's been his internal message, that's been his external message. It's made a lot of voters wary, though, because Make America Great Again, what is the great again that he's referencing? Is that back to the days of age that are, you know, we've far past and advanced beyond? That is what a lot of voters are scared about. So.
Well, and it's also interesting because 4 years ago, the whole thing with the Republican Party is if they want to win elections down the road, you have to bring in the Latino vote, the African American vote. You have to, with women as well, expand the base.
Right, and they
like
spoke
the
about
Democrats
that
were.
specifically in their GOP autopsy report that they did ahead of this election, saying that they need to incorporate Hispanics and minority voters, especially millennials, if they want to continue to succeed on a national scale. They haven't really done that.
And that's the ironic thing about it, is that this whole Donald Trump has almost gone in the entire opposite direction.
And that was an
with all of
alternate
that.
hypothesis that got floated after the autopsy report. One of the hypotheses was what you said about the Latino vote, minority vote, and young vote. But the other one was just to drive up turnout among whites, particularly blue-collar whites. And Donald Trump is testing that tonight, and while we have a lot left to call, he's really doing a pretty good job of arguing for that. Hypothesis.
Right, and I say going back to the new voters that we were discussing, he's brought a lot of pissed off white people into this race that have never voted before, to put it bluntly, and that has driven a huge portion of his voting population. We see that across the table in many different states where you see new voters voting for the first time and are actually passionate about what he claims to be saying. On the alternative side of the coin, you see pretty much minorities in many states voting in large part with the liberal agenda, especially down-ballot candidates as well. So that paradigm that the GOP tried to focus on has largely failed in terms of a branding aspect.
And so looking over as far as how the Clinton campaign has been branding their campaign during this election, their big thing is stronger together. They're talking up President Obama a lot. What's their strategy been like?
Well, it's fortunate enough that they have a surrogate, or a couple of surrogates, that are popular enough to actually go out on the campaign trail. Remember, George Bush couldn't go out and campaign, Bill Clinton couldn't go out and campaign, so it's been quite a while since we've had that positive, progressive attitude. And with that being said, she has let her surrogates speak for her. The coming together is all about party unity, but she's had to prove to the American voter that, yes, there are people who have held these positions that trust her, and that is thus for a reason for voters to trust her.
Yeah, it's not unprecedented for a sitting president to go out and campaign for the next candidate in their party, although it doesn't happen a lot, and one of the reasons for that is the sitting president after 8 years normally isn't as popular as President Obama has, and you almost think maybe the big winner out of the two candidates, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, is Barack Obama, just because of the flip side of anyone, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, is going to be less popular immediately once they take office than Obama
And I
is
wouldn't
right
say
now.
she's hearkening to the Obama administration per se. I think she's using those surrogates to her advantage. She sees them as people who are popular, people who have played to their advantages, and thus people who are trustworthy to the American populace. And she's using that to promote her own brand.
Well, certainly something that's going to be analyzed for quite some time, even after this election's over. As I said earlier in the broadcast, several states are holding their first presidential elections with photo voter ID requirements in place. Supporters say photo ID is an important bulwark against voter fraud. Opponents say it disenfranchises poor people and minorities. Is the risk of disenfranchisement worth the reward of preventing voter fraud? Megan Mystery has the answer.
9 new states are forcing eligible registered voters to show their government-issued IDs at polls this year. The states were able to enact legislation requiring voters to show their ID after the Supreme Court ruled in 2013, overturning a key part of the Voting Rights Act. That part, Section 4, gives states the ability to change their electoral process without approval at the federal level. The court ruled on this provision because they believed the section was intended to protect voters from any racial discrimination, with Justice Anthony Scalia calling it a thing of the past. But the new voter ID laws have been viewed as discriminatory, even being struck down in Wisconsin and North Carolina this summer as such, despite places like Texas and New Hampshire enacting them. So how are they discriminatory? Well, a 2012 American National Election Study shows that about 13% of African Americans don't have a photo ID, compared to just 5% of white people. According to a report by News 21, the voter ID law in Alabama alone could disenfranchise more than 280,000 voters in the state. Voter ID laws have mostly been popping up in southern states, and considering minority communities are statistically more likely to live in poorer areas without cars, and most southern states don't have public transportation, it can be harder for them to get government-issued photo IDs. For example, a 2012 federal court in Washington found that obtaining a state-issued voter ID certificate disproportionately affects minorities living in poverty, with many of them having to travel more than 200 miles to even get one. Also, because one must pay for an ID, former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder says the law is equivalent to having a poll tax, making it harder for someone with less resources to be able to exercise their right to vote. Officials from a federal court in Texas found that because of the new law, more than 600,000 registered voters in the state don't have the type of ID necessary to vote today. Back to you, Alex.
Before we go to the break, we have one more state to call. CitrusTV can project that the state of Colorado will go to Hillary Clinton. Now, that was early on, looked like it would likely go to her, but now she absolutely has to have it. And luckily for her, she does. We'll see what happens as the votes continue to come in. After the break, we have more states to break down, and Dan Prager will have the latest numbers for us. Don't go anywhere.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
I spy something beginning with S.
Snow?
No.
Snow-covered trees.
Nothing to do with snow.
Head outside to discover incredible animals and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure.
Wow.
So grab your loved ones.
Don't even.
And explore a world of possibilities.
Come on, this way.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you.
Fancy pants peanut butter? A big screen television? You haven't even bought a sofa yet. A motorcycle? When your father finds out, he's gonna flip his shoes with 2 buckles? What do you even need 2 buckles for? Mr. Big Shot, buying whiskey shots for everybody in the bar. From the looks of it, I'd say nobody even remembers. Feed the pig.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
Welcome back, and now we have another projection to make. Citrus TV can now project that the battleground state of Florida will go to Donald Trump. An absolutely huge win for the Trump campaign there. They were able to overcome a surge in Latino voter turnout. Really just a remarkable night so far. We have polls closing up and down the West Coast coming up at 11 o'clock. Still with me are Michael Tricarico and Josh Carney. But joining us right now is Dan Prager. Dan, what does the map look like?
Well, the map, the Trump campaign is celebrating right now because the map is going exactly the way he had hoped. He was saying since the beginning of this campaign he can swing these blue states, and right now it's looking like he can. Wisconsin and Michigan are looking like they're leaning toward Trump right now. And while there's a lot of vote left, if he wins one of them, he's in very good position. There's not really much of a way for Clinton to win.
I think one of the interesting things is, as far as states that are actually called, there aren't any major surprises. Yes, Trump needed Florida. There's not a huge surprise, but again, the difference being in what the numbers that are coming in now. You mentioned Michigan and Wisconsin, two states that Hillary Clinton needs if she wants to win the 270 for the Electoral College.
Yeah. And actually, I think it was kind of a surprise to see Trump win Florida. Okay. We were hearing these reports about how Broward and Miami-Dade were setting records for
really remarkable.
high Florida voting, which has to mean that there is incredibly high turnout among rural white voters, that they're going out and they're voting in huge numbers like we've never seen before.
Dan, if you crunch those numbers, what county made the difference here?
Ooh, what county made the difference? That's a good question. It might be Volusia County. It went pretty solidly for Trump in Florida, and in 2012 it went for Barack Obama. I'd have to look at the maps a little more to give you a
It makes sense.
answer,
Volusia County, you have Steve Shale, prominent Democratic strategist, saying that this is where we have had a problem turning out white working class votes. So that actually would describe a lot of it. But Miami-Dade, where did that fall?
Miami went very solidly Clinton, and in bigger numbers than we've ever seen before. She had these advantages. She had an advantage in Hillsborough County, which I said before was a bellwether and always picked a winner. This is going to be the second time ever that it's picked the loser of the state. So
is it not necessarily a fact that voters didn't turn out for Clinton, but it's more so that voters did turn out more so for Trump?
I mean, it has to be. We don't have the full numbers in yet, but with the incredibly high turnout of Miami-Dade and Broward, it has to be that voters are turning out in those rural areas.
All right, and now we want to now, Citrus TV can make a projection in the House. Incumbent John Katko will be re-elected from the New York 24th Congressional District. And I believe we have Colleen Deacon, his challenger, giving her concession speech. I believe we have that right now.
An America that works for everyone. I want to thank you all again so much for the work you've done over the past year, fighting for the issues that we hold dear. And I want you to know that your work was not done in vain. We must continue to fight for the things that we care about most, like paid family leave, an increase in minimum wage, and a real investment in infrastructure that will put people back to work. We must continue to hold our politicians accountable and push for the agenda we want them working on in Washington. Every voice matters, and we must use our voices and encourage those around us to use their voices as well to make Congress work better for everyone. For women and students, for single parents like myself, for seniors, for veterans, we must keep fighting to make sure that we have a voice in our government and that our government works for everyone. So tonight we celebrate some victories and reflect on the races that we did not win. But no matter the results tonight, we must all wake up tomorrow with our heads held high and double on our efforts to keep fighting to make this country the best that it can be. Thank you guys so much for everything.
Coming up at the top of the hour, polls are closing in California, North Dakota, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, and Idaho. We'll have the latest numbers and a look at the current path to 270 as we get closer to electing a new president. You're watching Election Night on Citrus TV.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
If you see news happening on campus in Syracuse or across the nation, call the CitrusTV newsroom at 315-443-1177 or tweet at CitrusTV News, your campus news leader.
Come on, it's not that hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome to OPP.
Orange Press Pass is your ticket inside the Syracuse locker room. Hear from the coach.
You can't make it. You're shooting 15%.
I really believe that we're going to start something. And play.
Just cutting down the net, I can feel the goosebumps.
Get in-depth analysis, reports on site, and more.
It's all right now on Orange Press Pass.
Orange Press Pass. Live after every Syracuse game.
This is a movement like our country has never seen before.
The change you've been waiting for your entire life.
We are going to win back the White House.
Don't ever forget what we are capable of being. I love our country and I believe in our people. And I will never, ever quit on you.
Welcome back. There are several ballot measures in many states up for votes tonight, and Sarah Nevin is here to break them all down.
A record 9 states have ballot measures to legalize or decriminalize marijuana this election. 5 states are voting for recreational use, including California. If passed in that state, it would legalize marijuana for the largest population of Americans so far. Another 4 states are considering medical legalization. We can confirm that Florida has legalized medical marijuana. Recent polls show that voters plan to approve marijuana use in all 9 of these states, legalizing it for 82 million Americans. While most polls are close, it still signals a major push by Americans to legalize marijuana nationwide. Colorado was the first state to legalize recreational use in 2012. With Florida medical marijuana, it is now legal in more than half of the states. And workers in 4 states may be getting a raise. Arizona, Colorado, and Maine all have measures to raise the minimum wage to $12. And Washington State is seeking a minimum wage of $13.50 an hour. None of the measures would cause an automatic increase. Instead, wages would gradually be increased by 2020. These measures follow a nationwide movement calling for a $15 minimum wage. Currently, the federal minimum wage is $7.25, set in 2009. Currently, Washington, D.C. and 29 states, including New York, have a minimum wage higher than the federal requirement. Voters in 4 states are also considering stricter gun laws. In Maine, voters will be deciding if background checks should be required for private gun sales, sales between individuals, not by licensed dealers. In California, there is a proposition that would require background checks for anyone purchasing ammunition and magazines. The measure would also ban the sale of large capacity ammunition magazines with more than 10 rounds. And the measure also calls for sellers of ammunition and magazines to be licensed. If passed, California would be the first state to require sellers to have such a license. In Nevada, voters will decide on measures requiring anyone buying a firearm from a licensed dealer to pass a background check. Finally, an initiative in Washington would create extreme risk protection orders, which would allow family members and police to go to a judge if they feel someone is at risk of harming themselves or others. If the judge agrees, that individual will be temporarily banned from purchasing a gun. Congress tried and failed to pass nationwide gun safety laws this June following the mass shooting at Pulse nightclub. According to national polls, 85% of Americans favor background checks. Moving on, California and Colorado have 2 notable healthcare-related measures. California's Proposition 61 would regulate drug prices by requiring state agencies to pay no more than what the Department of Veteran Affairs pays for prescription drugs. California's proposition is the most expensive ballot measure battle, not just in 2016, but in the nation's history. More than $109 million have been spent by opposition campaigns and another $17 million by supporters. Supporters say this will reduce costs. Opponents say it would reduce public access to medication overall. Colorado also has a notable amendment. Voters will decide whether or not to create Colorado Care, the nation's first ever single-payer healthcare system. Polls show that 60.5% of Colorado residents oppose this amendment. To wrap up, let's take a look at Florida's Amendment 1. It would protect the rights of residents to own or lease solar energy systems for personal use. States and local officials would also ensure that consumers who don't use solar power won't have to subsidize the cost of backup power for those who do. Now, this amendment did not pass. Many were opposed because of a controversial component. The amendment would have gotten rid of net metering, a billing mechanism that awards solar energy system owners for the power they add to the grid. Opponents argued that this would have increased utility bills for solar system owners, ultimately decreasing the expansion of solar energy use in the state. Those are some of the major ballot measures. Now back to you, Alex.
Thanks, Sarah. We still have several large swing states that cannot be called yet. Let's go to Dan Prager with the latest data coming out of those states.
All right, so first we're going to look at a state that is lightly red, but it's looking more and more like Clinton may need to win it. We're going to look at Arizona here, where there's really only one critical county, and it's Maricopa County right here. Maricopa is home to Phoenix and Mesa, and it has about half of the votes of the entire state. Right now, Trump is winning it slightly. He's winning Arizona by about 3 or so points. The reason Arizona has become so important is, one, the Hispanic vote there is very large, and Democrats were hoping that they could possibly turn it blue. The Comey letter kind of threw a wrench in that, but now they're hoping again. And also because if she loses Michigan or Wisconsin, Arizona might be her last chance to get back in this. If she loses Michigan and wins Wisconsin, if she wins Arizona, it's back to a tie. If she loses Wisconsin and wins Michigan and wins Arizona, she wins. It's unlikely, but it could happen. She's going to need big Hispanic turnout in Maricopa. All right, moving on to another state that actually looks pretty light blue, we have Nevada, where there's really only 2 critical counties, and both of them are blue on this map. You have Clark County down here, which is home to Las Vegas. Clark got a lot of national media attention, especially on Twitter, after political guru John Ralston said that Hispanic turnout there was incredibly high. That was the first time we really saw that Hispanic turnout was really high. He said that the state would really likely go blue unless there was a crazy amount of turnout among white rural voters. It's home to a large population. I believe 2/3 of the population lives in Clark County. Another one to look at is Washoe County, which is up here, the other blue state. And Washoe County is very swingy. If Clinton wins it, she's got a very good chance in the state. If Trump wins it, his chances improve. If Clinton doesn't win Nevada, it looks like it's all but over for her.
Thank you, Dan. Many polls just closed at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's see what projections we have. We've got several calls to make. Idaho, deep red state, will go to Donald Trump. North Carolina, major battleground state, will also go to Trump. Donald Trump is really winning every battleground state that he needs to win right now. It is truly a remarkable night going on, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about Florida, North Carolina, Ohio were the three main ones that if Trump was going to at least have a path to 270, he needed to win those three, and he got them all.
It's really remarkable.
I mean, with eyes on North Carolina, no one knows how the vote was suppressed so much. I mean, this was in the blue column yesterday. And midnight rallies coupled with late week pushes shouldn't be enough to do it. It should be a strong ground campaign throughout, and he pulled it out. So, you know, with 92% reporting, I mean, that's settled now. We got to wait for some others to come in.
And another one, another deep blue state still going for Clinton is the state of Oregon. So she kind of needs all the help she can get at this point, so at least she holds on to that for her campaign. Now, in just a few minutes, we'll be going to Jamie Weiss again with a check-in at the University Watch Party and a look with Claudia Bellafato at how social media has impacted the presidential race. Stay with us.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Taking care of a family member can lead to plenty of questions. Fortunately, there's a place to get the answers, for them and for you. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back. Our reporter Jamie Weiss is now at the Campus Watch Party in Shine Student Center. Jamie, it's been a pretty wild night so far. How are people reacting?
Well, Alex, the energy here at the Shine Student Center Campus Watch Party has been very up and down all night. The event started pretty high energy, and then as a couple hours went by, seemed to hit a lull. A lot of people left the Campus Watch Party, but one person has decided to stick it out. I'm joined here by Gigi Kwe. She's a junior here at Syracuse University, and she is actually from Ghana. So, Gigi, thank you so much. Tell us, how is your election night experience going?
It's going great, actually. It's really interesting to watch the students react to the different results of the different states. So I'm having fun.
So, since this is probably your first U.S. presidential election to watch, what are you hoping to get out of tonight?
It's actually, well, not my first, but I'm really hoping to get out tonight to see how the electoral votes play out. I know the election has a lot of emphasis on the different candidates because they're very, very distinct candidates. So it's hoping to see Hillary win. But if that doesn't happen, I'm just hoping, I'm praying that everybody responds to it well.
All right, well, thank you so much, Gigi. And as you mentioned earlier, the atmosphere here has been pretty crazy. Just a few moments ago, a lot of the West Coast ballots were announced, and the entire room erupted into cheers as those states went blue. And it's only a matter of time until we see how the night progresses and how the rest of the students will react. All right, Alex, back to you.
Thanks so much, Jamie. We have an exclusive interview right now. Our Rob Romano is with Colleen Deacon right now. Rob, take it away.
Thanks, Alex. I'm here live inside the historic Hotel Syracuse. We're going to be having, hopefully, a conversation with Colleen Deacon in just maybe a minute or maybe even a couple of seconds here, but just please stay with us. But what I can tell you is this. We have a new common councilor in Syracuse. His name is Joe Nicoletti, and he had a successful bid for that new position. And look at that, we have Colleen Deacon here right now. Ms. Deacon, thank you so much for your time and being willing to speak to us here on Citrus TV for our election special. Ms. Deacon, you ran a great campaign. I mean, what's going through your mind right now?
Well, you know, I think we did run a good campaign. We got some issues out there that mattered, like paid family leave, investment in infrastructure, providing resources for education, doing everything we can to support, you know, families and children and working people all over this district. And I'm excited that we're able to bring these issues to the forefront, and I hope they continue to be worked on not only for the 24th district, but for the entire country.
Absolutely. In your speech just now, you spoke about having that conversation with Congressman Katko, congratulating him. Is there anything else you guys talked about?
It was just congratulating him on his re-election, and it was a very good conversation.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, so what's next for Colleen Deacon going forward? Do you think you'll continue to, pursue public office in this way?
I don't know at this point. I've been so focused on this race the last 13 months. We'll see what happens, but right now I haven't even thought about running for another office at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely. You put up a great fight. Thank you so much, Ms. Deacon, and we'll send it back to you guys in the studio. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks so much, Rob. Parties and policies aside, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton differ greatly in style. You've seen it at their rallies, in their debates, and in press conferences. Trump's brash, off-the-cuff approach foils with Clinton's measured and disciplined one. Each has its pros and cons, and politicians could be using a little bit of both in the future. Tom Austin's here to break it down. Tom, what do you think is the biggest difference in style between these two?
Well, I think you could describe it as a difference between style and substance. Where Trump uses his platform as more of a performance type, and Clinton kind of focuses more on policy, more on substance. Trump prefers to tell it like it is, as he says, and Clinton prefers to kind of step back, look as though she's more prudent than Trump is.
And so are there arenas outside of politics where these styles have sort of worked before?
Well, outside of politics, it really depends. But within politics themselves, Trump in debates and stuff, he has struggled when it comes to maintaining stamina, when it comes to answering questions and things of that sort. Whereas Clinton, when it comes to debates, she has an ability to answer tough policy questions, to kind of keep it going, and to not go off the cuff to a point where it looks like she's distracted, it looks like she's not as knowledgeable on the issues.
How have the voters responded to these two varying styles, and in what ways, we mentioned, do they work, but in what ways do they not work?
Well, I think voters value both of the styles. They value a knowledgeable candidate, someone who they can trust with the nuclear code, someone they can trust, with making a timely decision in an effective manner. But they also value someone who can, connect with them in a layman sort of style. And so I think, both pieces connect with voters in that way. But I think at times, when Trump goes too far off the cuff, I think it offsets them, and you hear temperamentally unfit a lot. And I think when Clinton gets into these tired type of policy responses, I think that too bothers voters.
Now, obviously, this election is going to have some profound impact on politicians at all levels in the future. How can they learn from both of these candidates for people who are seeking future office?
Well, I think they have to take the benefits from both. They have to see that, like I said, a voter wants to see a candidate who knows what he or she is doing, who knows the issues, who can just make important decisions in a prudent way. But also, voters want to see someone who they see as themselves, and I think both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have that. But if you can connect them, as say Bill Clinton did a few years ago, you can be an extremely effective politician.
All right. Well, Tom Austin, thank you for joining us. Now, throughout the election cycle, we've seen active campaigns on all platforms of social media. Claudia Bellafato went out onto the Syracuse University campus to find out just how much social media has played a role in this election.
I honestly believe it's the most dramatic choice we'll ever face in our lifetime.
And that choice will be finalized today. Who will be the next president of the United States? As the 2016 presidential election finally comes to a close, what is it that has the lasting impression on voters? Is it celebrity appearances like LeBron James and Beyonce?
I know you guys are excited to see her. I didn't know you guys would be excited to see me too, but thank you.
Or could there be a tool as useful as Hollywood, right at the candidate's fingertips? Professor Sean McGalley, who has done research on social media effects and the presidential campaign at the Syracuse University iSchool, says that social media is a major factor in the presidential campaign.
That in this day and age, you have to be on social media. It's key to energizing and mobilizing supporters. It's key to grassroots organizing, fundraising. It helps you get name recognition, improves your standing in the public opinion polls, generates news media coverage for you if you can be controversial or compelling, quirky, interesting, or to try to make something go viral.
Social media may also be key in interesting one particular group of voters.
A lot of the young voters are more involved and want to vote more because they feel more of the effects of it because they see it through social media rather than a long time ago when you just see it in the newspaper. It's not as connected to you as a person, so maybe that's why it would help both parties.
But for strictly social media users, coverage may seem a bit one-sided.
I see way more negative Trump coverage than I do anything else. Like, it's just, it overwhelms every other aspect of the election, I think.
So whether Trump or Clinton use social media to their advantage may still be a question. But in the end, it all comes down to who goes out to vote. Professor Sean McGalley says that we will have potentially historic highs in terms of voter turnout for this 2016 presidential election. Claudia Belafato, CitrusTV News.
Now, when we get back, we'll be able to call some more states, and we'll be talking to Dan Prager to see where the electoral map stands. You're watching Election Night on Citrus TV.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. You're gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. So wet.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation letter.
You're resigning.
Why? Because you're constantly ignoring me. You're half as active as you used to be, and you get stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me.
Okay, but remember, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Welcome back. Now, Citrus TV reporter Nicole Dementri is with the newly re-elected congressman from the 24th District of New York, John Katko. Nicole, take it away.
Being independent. And I dare say we've accomplished that. We've sent a message to Washington and to everybody that you can do that. You can be your own person. You can be an independent, and you can make things work. So for all of you out there who helped me, I want to thank you very much. And I want to let you know that we're just getting warmed up. My two favorite ladies in my life, my mother and my wife. And I won't tell you which one I like better because I'll get in trouble, so. But I have been overwhelmed from the beginning about the amount of support I've had from everybody. My family, my friends, people from Washington, people from here, people taking time after work to go help us out. I'm overwhelmed by it, and I want to thank you all. I could not possibly thank you all by name, but I just want to say thank you very much. It's unbelievable to me, and I'm just really happy about it. So the chairs and committee members, all of you who helped me out so much, thank you very much. My staff in Washington, my staff in Syracuse, my campaign staff, I don't know how I keep them all on track, but thank you all. My family, this is just a small part of my family right here, and I'm not kidding. And I love you guys all because you've done so much for me. You've been so supportive. Never had to ask them to do anything. They were just out doing it, and I really appreciate everything, you guys. I love you all very much. So thank you. My mom is she's been a great leader of our family. She's always taught us to turn the other cheek. She's always taught us how to be nice. What's the saying? It's nice to be nice, she always says. And it's true, it works. So Mom, I love you. Dad's home, I know. Couldn't be with us tonight, but he knows we're here and we love him too. And thank you for everything you've done to lead our family. So thank you. All right. My three boys have been through an awful lot. My three boys have been through an awful lot because they have to put up with a lot for me to be in Washington. It's hard to be away from them. And for Liam, Logan, and Sean, I'm gonna let you guys know how much I appreciate everything you do. So thank you. And my wife, Robin, and I have been together since she was 17 and I was 18 years old.
All right, now there are few countries that have played such a pivotal role in the 2016 election than Russia. From being accused of meddling in the election to military action in both the Ukraine and Syria, the next president of the United States will deal with a Russia looking to reassert itself as a superpower. Elijah Sharma breaks down what kind of Russia the next president will face.
Thanks, Alex. Russia is a nation that has reemerged on the international scene like few others, due in no small part to Vladimir Putin and his silencing of opposition in Moscow. His actions in both the Ukraine and Crimea have left much of NATO on edge, but it's his provocations in Syria and online that will prove the biggest challenge to our next president. Russia has been supporting the Assad regime in Syria with airstrikes for over a year now, turning a decisive victory by rebel forces into the grueling civil war we see today. According to The Guardian, Russian airstrikes have killed over 2,000 civilians in Syria since March. Cyber attacks are also becoming an increasing concern, with Russian-backed hackers having interfered in the election with data dumps. The U.S. government has been readying resources in a strike back against Russia, but it will ultimately be up to the next president to decide how to proceed moving forward. All of this chest pounding comes as Russia's economy is expected to underperform once again, with estimates showing a decline by 0.6%. Monthly incomes have also slipped down to $450 a month for the average Russian. That's less than Romania, Serbia, and China. Despite the faltering economy, Russia has continued its military buildup.
Thanks, Elijah. This election has caused discrimination for some minority groups. Donald Trump's proposal to block all Muslim immigrants still leaves some fearful. CitrusTV reporter Brooke Glatz has more at the Islamic Society in CNY.
Magda Bayoumi is married to the president of the Central New York Islamic Society. She's the co-chair of the Outreach Committee. Both met 35 years ago as students at SU.
We would like to have a safe place for the Muslim community or the Muslim individuals to come here and feel like they are a community. It's not a place that welcome only Muslim, but welcome everybody.
With candidates like Donald Trump wanting to ban Muslims from entering the country, Bayoumi urges others now more than ever to exercise their American freedoms.
Go and vote and hold your candidate accountable. This is not what America is all about. America has been, a land of immigrant, and he himself, he should understand that. They're having two candidates or four candidates does not know much about what's happening around the world or what's happening inside America itself.
To Bayumi, America is the only home she knows.
I remember after 9/11 when my uncle called me and said, come back home because, they're gonna do a lot of bad things for you. Come back home. My answer to him, you don't understand, I am home.
Bayumi's sister is the only family she has in America. The rest of their family lives in Egypt and worries for both their safety.
They worry about me. They worry about that I get shot or I get hit or I get hurt. This is the news. It reaches them.
Reporting for Citrus TV, I'm Brooke Taylor.
Now let's check in. We have with a few states that are too close to call. First up, we have Michigan. It's too close to call. Donald Trump ahead by about 15,000 votes with 55% of the vote in. Crucial state for Hillary Clinton right now. Moving up to Wisconsin, also too close to call. Donald Trump ahead by about 60,000 votes. 64% of the vote in. Hillary Clinton needs to win that one as well. Washington is surprised there. It looks like Donald Trump is ahead by about 23,000 votes. That's more than a little surprising, but we'll see what happens with that. Now, let's take a look at the updated electoral vote totals. Dan, what do you have for us?
Well, right now we have about 212 to 197, but we're really looking at these surprising leads in Wisconsin, Michigan, and even Washington. I'm guessing that one's going to mellow out. It already is kind of shifting more toward Clinton. Trump has a lead, but as we speak, it's moving more toward Clinton. Michigan's actually kind of tightening as well, but Wisconsin, it's really surprising. Both of these states were projected to be solidly blue, and that's a thing we're going to be talking about all night, but if nobody could have predicted this.
Yeah, I think this is one election, no matter what happens, I think pollsters and predictors, myself included, are going to probably have a lot of egg on their faces after this.
Definitely.
I don't know if anyone could have predicted what's happening in the Midwest right now.
We have solidly blue states yesterday. They have flipped to practically going red at this point. When you look at Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Washington, Iowa, these are all states that people had locked in, or at least leaning one way or the other. And now we are seeing a total drastic shift, and it's not like there's 11% in, it's like 62% in certain states.
And now in North Carolina as well.
And now Clinton's firewall hasn't broken just yet. There hasn't been a state called from that group of states that she needs to win, but it is really not a good position to be in if you're Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely not. And I think one of the things you really have to look at is how poorly she's doing in these rural areas. We all kind of knew that she would lose votes there, and hopefully that for her that she would pick up votes in those urban counties. But in Wisconsin right now, she lost pretty much the entire western coast of the state, which is what Obama won in 2012. In Michigan, she's only winning 6 counties right now, which is incredible,
2 states
kind of
that haven't been
ridiculous.
called yet, though, Wisconsin and Minnesota. Minnesota leading towards Democrats, Wisconsin leaning the other way, are very similar in many senses. Huge metropolitan areas that have shore up a large part of the voting base, but are also incredibly rural. And you see a strong dynamic, one going the other way and one going the other way. And there is really no telling what is driving that vote outside of demographics, and based off the demographic charting that we've seen from political pollsters throughout the weeks and months and even the year, it seems as if this is not exactly unprecedented, but certainly unexpected.
And you wonder, as far as the exit polling and just pre-election polling.
This may be one of the worst elections for exit polls.
Well,
we were talking at the beginning
Exactly.
of this.
Exit polls in general.
Well, and you wonder if part of that is, were people just not willing to give, did they not know who they were actually going to vote for and just gave a candidate, or did they say they were going to vote for someone and ended up voting someone else? Were they afraid to say, were people afraid to say, I was voting for Donald Trump?
One of the things that's been talked about all election by pro-Trump forces is the idea of a hidden Trump vote. Well, it's not hidden anymore.
No,
they came out in force tonight.
And it's called the Bradley effect, and it was pretty disproven over the course of the past 15, 20 years. People were saying there's no such thing as the Bradley effect, there's no such thing as this hidden vote. Today kind of throws a wrench in that.
Yeah.
We don't know. There might be, this could change the way political scientists and pundits and pollsters look at elections forever.
One way or another, we're going to be talking about this election for quite a long
Absolutely.
time. Now, when we come back, we will be live at the Syracuse Democratic and Republican headquarters with Rob Romano and Nicole Dementri for a reaction to the current state of the race. Don't go anywhere.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat?
1 in 5 children struggles with hunger in America. Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Got a quarter?
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.
Welcome back. Citrus TV can now project that Hillary Clinton will win the state of Washington. And now, Michael Tricarico is back in our newsroom again with the Decision Desk. Michael, what's going on right now in the newsroom?
I'm back here in the newsroom once again. We're going to start with Leanza. We've been talking so much about the presidential election, but the Senate race is also equally as important. What do you have as an update as far as the Senate races go?
Well, out of the 7 Senate races that I've been paying attention to all throughout the night, 3 have been called already. So over here you have Florida. Marco Rubio won at 52.1% with almost more than 4 million votes. Indiana's Todd Young also won with 52.2% with 1 million votes. And you also have North Carolina's Richard Burr winning the Senate race for them. And this is really important because this marks how most of the Senate races, the ones I've been paying attention to, have gone Republican as far as we have. It's up to the 4 other races now to see if they'll turn Democratic, and it will determine whether or not the Republicans still have more people in the Senate for this particular race.
It'll certainly be interesting to see. Of course, right now it seems like Republicans will keep control, but we'll still keep updated. Now let's go to Pennsylvania. We've been talking so much about Michigan and Wisconsin, but Pennsylvania, another state that Hillary Clinton needs. Gilad?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at this point, Pennsylvania is absolutely crucial. You get 20 electoral votes. Right now, her lead is growing a little. She has a 1.5% lead there. And something that was surprising, she picked up Lackawanna County. This is one of the Scranton-Wilkes Barre region. It's a big manufacturing region. So that was a nice gift for her because that was tough to get. But the 2 most important counties you're going to want to look at now that haven't been decided yet, you have Lehigh County right here. That's where Allentown is. 74% in. She is up there. She has 49.8% of the vote there. This is the 10th biggest county in the state. So if she could close that out, it's still 74% in. But the most important county you're going to want to look at is Bucks County. This is a Philadelphia suburb. Only 51% of the vote is in, but she is leading there by less than a point. So if she can really blow out Bucks County, it's one of the Philadelphia suburbs. She was able to get other Philadelphia suburbs county of Montgomery, Delaware, and Chester. So I think that if she can win Bucks and win it by more than what she has right now with a point, maybe get a 2-point lead there, I think she could carry the state with that.
All right, and then one quick point on Nevada, Josh. What are you going to be paying attention to as far as who can win?
The big counties are
Clark County, which was very competitive, but it's going Clinton. That's where Las Vegas is and everything like that. High voter turnout is necessary. Right now we have Clinton at about, overall in the state, at about 50.6%, but stuff is still rolling in. But a big note is Washoe County, which Obama won 51% back in 2012. Right now it's going Clinton, so that might be looking good for Nevada, for Clinton.
All right, thanks, Josh. We got our guys and girls in the newsroom hard at work. Alex, back to you.
Thanks, Michael. Now we go back to Nicole at the Republican headquarters. Nicole, it's a pretty good night for Republicans right now. What's the atmosphere there like?
Well, Alex, it's almost indescribable right now. People are cheering, you know, behind me. Some people have cleared out after John Kakko made his victory announcement. But as you can hear, people are cheering right now. Fox News is on. Fox is projecting that Iowa and Wisconsin will go to Trump. That means he will be up way above Clinton right now. Right now, he sits at 254, 209 on Fox right now, and people are just cheering. They continuously hear things, what's going on here, and it's just electric here. That is the only way to describe it. People keep coming up to me and hugging me, kissing me, and you hear we have that great, and they just called Georgia. He just won Georgia, and honestly, tonight, it's such an electric night here, and I cannot even describe another word. It's just the atmosphere is great here. Everybody's in such positive spirits, and that nervousness we started out with earlier in the day certainly has gone away, because they're pretty sure, everyone here is pretty sure that Trump has it in the bag, and we'll be calling Donald Trump President Trump just shortly, and that's what they're thinking here, and everyone's very excited about it.
There's really no other word to describe this than remarkable. Thank you so much, Nicole. Now, let's take a look at the Democratic headquarters with Rob Romano. Rob, what is happening there?
Thanks, Alex. I'm here live inside the Hotel Syracuse for what continues to may end up looking like a very historic night, that being in terms of what ends up happening with the national race between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Now, we have a situation where people are starting to be sent downstairs. Not quite yet, maybe in a couple of minutes, most likely around midnight. That's because all the speeches have been made, and we've reached a point where Colleen Deacon's already spoke, Joe Nicoletti's already spoke, and a number of other candidates have already spoke. And as you can see here, things are starting to really die down. People's eyes are still on television sets, but not much is really spurring here. Things just seem to be a matter of watching what happens in the national election, and there seems to be a level of relaxation, I suppose, in the sense of, the local races are pretty much decided. Now, I will say the big piece of anxiety is just, of course, the national race between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And we continue to be hearing some sound off the intercom here, and it looks like people are going to be moving downstairs to a different room very soon. I'm Rob Romano, live in the historic Hotel Syracuse for CitrusTV News on election night.
Thank you so much, Rob. Coming up, Paul Dwyer will join us to discuss the trust in government and what effect the election has had on that. You're watching Election Night on CitrusTV.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
As we come back, we have two more big calls to make. The state of Iowa will go to Donald Trump. Iowa, which of course voted for Barack Obama twice, now solidly in the red column. We can also project that the state of Georgia will go to Donald Trump. That was a state Democrats thought might be able to flip this time, but as they are having trouble holding on in the Midwest, Georgia is out of reach. With the race still in limbo, we have plenty to break down. I'm here with Michael Tricarico and Josh Carney. First thoughts, go.
I mean, what a surprise. I think Donald Trump saying that he thought he had a chance in Michigan and Wisconsin and these blue-collar states, he was right. He actually had a chance, and he's had more of a chance. We talked about Michigan early on, but it seems that Wisconsin is the state that Trump has a better chance. And now something to keep in mind, Wisconsin with just 10 electoral votes compared to Michigan's 16. If Trump wins Wisconsin and Hillary Clinton wins Michigan, there is an entirely possible way you have a split 269 to 269 total in the Electoral College. So Hillary Clinton is hoping, if I'm going to lose one, let it be Wisconsin, let me win Michigan.
This night is so far from done. There are so many close races that are within 1%.
Well, let's be clear also, Pennsylvania is still really close.
Pennsylvania is still very close. Nevada is still very close. Minnesota, all leaning Dem, possibly going the other way. Arizona, Utah, eyes on them coming up in the next hour. Iowa, Wisconsin. Pretty demoralizing for the Clinton campaign, considering those were ones that they thought could flip. Wisconsin pretty handedly in there. Sabato, people who usually are not wrong, are dead wrong tonight, and that is just on pollsters. It's creating a pretty stark dynamic, and it's truly unfathomable.
It's something else. Now, in his 1863 Gettysburg Address, President Abraham Lincoln famously said that government must be of the people, by the people, for the people. That's what our founding fathers had in mind when they had the idea of how America should be. But over the last few decades, trust in government has steadily decreased. Here to take a closer look is Paul Dwyer.
Alex, as you said, public trust in government has plummeted in the last half century. This chart from Pew shows just how incredibly trust is eroding. The poll was started in 1958, and back then about 3/4 of Americans said they trusted the government. Fast forward to now, and public trust is at just 19%. The level of trust currently varies widely between party affiliation, with Democrats having a 26% trust rate, while just 11% of Republicans trust the government. The two nominees for president this year certainly aren't helping with those numbers. A Washington Post ABC News poll conducted earlier this month found that Donald Trump has an 8-point lead over Hillary Clinton in a poll over who is more honest and trustworthy, 46 to 38, but neither of them have very high honest and trustworthy numbers. Hillary Clinton has had trust issues with the public stemming from a multitude of scandals and controversies over the years. Some of the scandals that have plagued her recently are her involvement with the Benghazi terrorist attack where 4 Americans were murdered at the U.S. consulate, and her use of a private email server as Secretary of State. The private email server can be seen as her not wanting anyone to be able to see her emails in office, which is directly against transparency. The FBI did not indict Clinton, but afterwards, a Washington Post ABC News poll found that 56% of Americans disapproved with the FBI's decision. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has trust issues himself. Without him ever holding public office before, he does not have a track record of government to go by. Some people also question his temperament, stemming from how he has acted this campaign cycle. And finally, one of the Clinton campaign's favorite talking points is that Trump can't be trusted with the nuclear codes, something that is stuck with some Americans as a serious risk, not worth trusting him. It looks like these low trust numbers may be here to stay. Alex, back to you.
Paul, in just a few minutes, China is on the rise and is poised to become a larger thorn in the side for the next president. Elijah Shama will join us to break it all down. Don't go anywhere.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
Got a quarter?
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
Before we get to Elijah, let's take a look at the current electoral vote as it stands right now. Donald Trump is knocking on the door of 270 electoral votes at 240. Hillary Clinton languishing behind at 209. Still quite a bit left to be called, but Mr. Trump is really within striking distance. Truly a completely... I'm out of words to describe this. I am just completely amazed by this, but it's truly an incredible election night here in America. Now, China's increasingly flexing its muscles as a rising superpower. The next president will have to deal with a China that's been, well, the next president's going to have to deal with China that's been more aggressive in the South China Sea in particular. Elijah Shama is here to talk about that. Elijah, let's talk about the South China Sea. In a nutshell, what's the conflict like there?
The conflict is basically over this small kind of parcel of islands called the Paracels and the Spratly Islands. And China's claiming that they control a fair amount of these islands. And they've been contested by Malaysia, by Indonesia, by Vietnam, by the Philippines. These are islands that a lot of nations say that they have claims over. And China is really pushing for it, and they kind of have the military superpower. Think of it in the way of the United States and the Caribbean. We're looking at this giant continental superpower kind of imposing its weight on very small kind of nation states.
And now one area that's kind of a little unpredictable in terms of East Asia relations is Japan. Japan has a pacifist constitution that was written after World War II. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is sort of moving in a different direction for that. What sort of effect does that have on China right now?
Yeah, it's interesting because they adopted this pacifist constitution right after World War II, and then during the Cold War, in order to kind of check China and North Korea, they kind of revised it a little bit to go so they still had a self-defense force. Shinzo Abe wants to take that pacifist constitution and really create an offensive army. He believes that in order to kind of counterbalance China, there needs to be a strong Japan. And the foreign policy experts are kind of out on whether or not that's actually a good thing for the region, if it would increase stability or if it would just make things a lot more tense. But he is trying to move in that direction with large fights from Congress or the parliament, rather, in Japan.
The South China Sea encompasses waters other nations like Malaysia and the Philippines claim. How are they reacting to China's new moves?
It's interesting because you see these small nations, they're kind of starting to pick sides. Malaysia has recently kind of buddied up with China, signing a collateral defense agreement. And the Philippines has also, in their recent spat of breaking up with the United States, quote unquote, they've also reached out to China and said that China can provide us what the U.S. is not willing to anymore. So we've kind of seen people pick sides, but Vietnam is still very much against this. They were among the first to file claims, and over 170 Vietnamese soldiers have died in clashes surrounding the South China Sea already.
To touch on the international aspect, what has been the reaction and the impact of the international community on China's moves within the region?
It's kind of been swift condemnation. The Philippines took this to an international court and contested it, and they won. China has since said that they don't agree with the ruling and that they're not going to follow it, but there has been kind of a landmark decision by the international community to say that this isn't right and you don't have a claim to these islands. And China has kind of blown it off and said, we're bigger.
Well, it's going to be one of the biggest foreign policy issues of the next several years. Elijah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
When we come back, Tom Austin will be joining us to break down the first 100 days of the Trump or Clinton presidency. Stay with us.
Fancy pants peanut butter? A big screen television? You haven't even bought a sofa yet. A motorcycle? When your father finds out, he's gonna flip his shoes with 2 buckles? What do you even need 2 buckles for? Mr. Big Shot, buying whiskey shots for everybody in the bar. From the looks of it, I'd say nobody even remembers. Feed the pig.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
I spy something beginning with S.
Snow?
No.
Snow-covered trees.
Nothing to do with snow.
Head outside to discover incredible animals and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure.
Wow.
So grab your loved ones.
Don't even.
And explore a world of possibilities.
Come on, this way.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it?
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got? Or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back. Now, a few things that have sort of gotten lost in the coverage that I want to talk about. In Arizona, Maricopa County, longtime Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who was an early booster of Donald Trump, lost his re-election bid. Kind of a really, given the political headwinds that are pro-Trump right now, kind of a surprising development there, wouldn't you say?
Coupled with the conservative lead as well. I mean, that's not something that we were expecting, but we certainly knew that Arizona was going to be a shakeup in the race regardless. But the sheriff's race is definitely something that I don't think anybody expected.
Also, recreational marijuana has passed in California and in Massachusetts. Josh, you must be very happy about that.
Prop 4, it is happening, and that's about all we can say about that. Something that I'm looking at, though, outside of Arizona to bring it back is how that race is going to be able to finish up, and especially Nevada. Nevada has some historic things on the horizon. First of all, they could be electing their first female Hispanic senator, I believe.
Catherine Cortez Masto.
Yes, and that is unprecedented. So obviously that's something that they're going to be watching in Clark County, especially as those numbers continue to come in.
I mean, I'm interested in seeing, where do pollsters go from here as far as not just exit polls, but
you mean aside from looking for new jobs?
Yeah,
yes.
well, exactly. But it's just amazing how it's not that these are completely far off, but they sort of are at the same time. Now, the result could be a Hillary Clinton presidency. The way it's going right now, it's that there were a lot of polls that didn't give Trump a 25% chance.
You know, Donald Trump tweeted,
and he may be our president.
Donald Trump tweeted several months ago, they will soon be calling me Mr. Brexit. The way it's looking right now, we very well might be. We also might be calling him Mr. President. We'll see what happens. Another thing, in my home Commonwealth of Virginia, a right-to-work constitutional amendment was defeated. Honestly, I think that's kind of a microcosm of how far Virginia has, far to the left Virginia has shifted, especially under President Obama. This is a state, the former capital of the Confederacy, voted Republican from '68 until 2008. And when it voted in 2008, it not only voted for a Democrat, it voted for the first black president. Yeah, truly a remarkable
We've seen
shift.
a lot of unprecedented ballot initiatives, but we've also seen a lot of trickily worded ones too. You're seeing the repeal of the death penalty in Nebraska, which we don't know the results for yet, but it's also a reflection on the ballots. A lot of stuff has been confusing, a lot of stuff has been hard fought, and states throughout the country are getting a lot of different feedback from the voters tonight.
And I think one of the biggest things that you're going to see is how much there was such a silent majority. Whether Donald Trump wins or not, there was a silent majority that did really, truly stand with Trump, and that's something that not many people foresaw.
Ain't that the truth, Tricky? Guys, thank you for joining me tonight.
This has been fun, Alex. Yep.
Well, the political gods have spoken, and they decided to keep the 2016 election going just a little bit past our airtime tonight. Neither candidate has yet reached the necessary 270 electoral votes, and the counting goes on. In 2000, we didn't know our next president until early December. In 1876, the race between Samuel J. Tilden and Rutherford B. Hayes wasn't decided until January, with Tilden's supporters in the meantime adopting the slogan, "Tilden or blood." Will we have to wait that long? Only time will tell. Now tonight, November 8th, we will have chosen our next president. Tomorrow, November 9th, millions of Americans will get up, drop their kids off at school, and go to work, just like they did today. Some of them voted for Trump, some of them voted for Hillary, some of them didn't vote. All of them are our fellow Americans. We have different party affiliations, we have different political philosophies, but we all love our country and we want what we think is best for it. After a bruising, divisive, sometimes disheartening election, let us remember that and move forward, not as Clinton supporters, not as Trump supporters, but as Americans. Thank you for watching Citrus TV's Election Night. For everyone here, I'm Alex Amico. Good night.